Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to tonight's PRD hearing for Rockwell. Today is July 23rd, 2026. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. I want to let you all know that tonight's meeting is both being recorded and live streamed to the Township's YouTube channel. So I imagine we have some viewers at home. I want to thank you all for coming this evening. I know this is an important issue for our community. Also, just some important notes. We do have a court reporter here this evening. It is important that they are able to capture and hear everything that's occurring. If you need to take a phone call or talk to your neighbor or any other matter, we would ask that you step outside and please refrain from sidebar conversations. It makes it very difficult to hear in the room when there's side chatter or calling out occurring. It's very important to us that everybody has a chance to be heard throughout this process. And so our solicitor will outline the procedures and the timeline for that we anticipate, but a little bit of cooperation from all of you will make it so that we're all able to hear and respectfully share our thoughts. I want to point out that there are restrooms down the hallway here, and we anticipate a hard cutoff time of 10 p.m. tonight. We will be taking a break around 8 p.m. unless something necessitates a break before then, but just for your planning purposes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Freed, our township solicitor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as mentioned, we're here on the Rockwell Downingtown LLC applications related to a planned residential development. I'm going to be referring to planned residential development throughout, and I think people will generally be referring to as PRD. And a planned residential development is a type of land use that is permitted under the municipality's planning code. So Rockwell Downingtown LLC has made application to the township for a tentative approval for a PRD on a 254-acre tract, which is the gross area identified as, and just for the record, I'm going to list the tax parcel numbers, UPI numbers 33-1-17.1, 33-1-25, 33-1-26, 33-1-27, 33-1-28, and 33-1-28.1, and these are located along Lionville Station Road in Uwchlan Township. So related to the request for the tentative approval, the township is also considering an ordinance and zoning map amendment for the planned residential development overlay. All three of these items, the application for tentative approval, the PRD overlay ordinance, and the zoning map amendment, are the subject of this hearing. Planned residential developments, as I mentioned, are allowed under Article 7 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. So, since this is a somewhat involved process, let me go through and sort of run through and give you an outline and overview of the process for the hearing. So first, I'm going to identify the township's exhibits for the hearing. Second, I'm going to discuss what it means to have party status, and we will speak to any person who is requesting party status. Once we are done with party status requests, the applicant, which is Rockwell Downingtown LLC, will begin to present its case. The applicant will call its witnesses to testify. After each applicant witness testifies, members of the Board of Supervisors will have an opportunity to ask the witness questions. Then people with party status will have an opportunity to ask the witness questions on topics of their testimony. This will be a time for the parties to ask questions, not to make statements regarding their positions. Following the applicant's witness, the township will have an opportunity to present its consultant or other witness on the same subject. For example, after the applicant's traffic engineer testifies, the board will have an opportunity to hear from its traffic engineer. Both the applicant and the people with party status will have an opportunity to ask questions of the township witness. After the applicant finishes its case, the township and then people with party status will have an opportunity to present their case. At this time, people with party status will have an opportunity to present witnesses and or present their own testimony to the board. It's important to note that any testimony or statements given by parties with party status at that time will be sworn testimony, and both the applicant and the board will have an opportunity to question the party and its witnesses. Following all case presentation, members of the public will have an opportunity to make public comment. This is not going to occur today. It will occur after all testimony is completed. Public comment is not considered evidence in this matter. In addition to making public comment in person, the township is accepting written public comment until July 27th, until July 27th. Following the close of the last day of hearings, the Board of Supervisors will have up to 60 days to render a decision on the tentative approval. I expect the board will also make a decision on the ordinance and zoning map at the same time. So I see applicant's counsel here, Mr. Calagreco. Does that process sound acceptable? Thank you. So now, and this is going to be a little laborious, and I hope you'll bear with me, we're going to identify at least the initial township exhibits for the record. There are 22 exhibits, and the first exhibit has a number of subparts. So Board Exhibit 1 is the application letter dated September 16th, 2025. Board Exhibit 1A is an extension letter from the applicant that gave an extension until March 13th, 2026. Board Exhibit 1B is an extension letter that gave an extension until June 11th, 2026. Board Exhibit 1C is an extension that gave an extension until July 31, 2026. Board Exhibit 1D is the proposed PRD ordinance with map. Board Exhibit 1E is a proposed tentative PRD plan. That's pages 1 through 43 included for reference. Board Exhibit 1F is waiver requests dated June 12th, 2026. That was Board Exhibit 1F. So now we'll move on to the other exhibits. Board Exhibit 2 is the public notice in the Daily Local. Board Exhibit 3 is the proof of publication of this hearing, which ran on July 6th, 2026 and July 13th, 2026. Board Exhibit 4 is this certification of posting dated July 7, 2026. Board Exhibit 5 is abutting property owners notified of the proceeding. Board Exhibit 6 is the E.B. Walsh review letter dated July 16th, 2026. Board Exhibit 7 is the Bowman review letter dated July 16th, 2026. Board Exhibit 8 is the HRG review letter dated July 9th, 2026. Board Exhibit 9 is the Thurkoff review letter dated July 1st, 2026. Board Exhibit 10 is the Uwchlan Township Fire Marshal Memorandum dated July 15th, 2026. Board Exhibit 11 is the Uwchlan Township Police Review Memorandum dated June 30, 2026. Board Exhibit 12 is the Lionville Fire Company Review Letter dated July 16th, 2026. Board Exhibit 13 is email from Uwchlan Ambulance to Robert Cagle dated March 11th, 2026. Board Exhibit 14 is the Historic Commission Review Letter dated December 1st, 2025. Board Exhibit 15 is the Environmental Advisory Council review letter dated October 13th, 2025. Board Exhibit 16 is the Chester County Planning Commission review letter dated July 1st, 2026. Board Exhibit 17 is the French and Pickering review letter dated July 16th, 2026. Board Exhibit 18 is Thomas Committa Associates review letter dated July 16th, 2026. Board Exhibit 19 is West Pikeland review letter dated July 17th, 2026. Board Exhibit 20 is the Upper Uwchlan Township email dated July 20, 2026. Board Exhibit 21 is the Planning Commission meeting minutes dated April 15th, 2026. And Board Exhibit 22 is the PennDOT, Pennsylvania Department of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, TIS determination, scoping meeting application review comments dated March 13th, 2026. Does the applicant have any objection to any of those exhibits? No. All right, so the board will accept those exhibits for the purposes of this hearing as admitted. So now we're going to move on to explaining what it means to have party status and what that allows you to do and what you can do, frankly, even if you don't have party status. So with regard to party status, it's available to people who might be impacted by the use. And there's legal standards for what directly impacted could be. Party status allows a person to fully participate in the hearing. It allows a person to cross-examine witnesses, present a case to testify, and present a case and testify on the record. However, a person does not need to be a party to provide public comment. An opportunity for public comment will be made at the end of the hearings. Another aspect of party status is that a person cannot appeal the board's decision on the tentative approval if they are not a party. Although just because you are a party doesn't mean a court is going to agree that you should be a party, and there'll be a whole nother review if it gets appealed up to the court level. However, you do not need to be a party to be able to appeal the zoning ordinance or map. It's a legal distinction between the tentative plan, which is quasi-judicial, and the zoning map and the zoning ordinance, which are legislative, which means you don't need to be a party status to appeal those if there's something about those you're unhappy with, but you would need to be a party to be able to appeal the tentative plan. So with all that, I'm going to ask if there's anyone here tonight that would like to have party status. All right, I see a number of hands. So I'm going to ask whoever's wants party status to come up to the microphone. I'm going to ask your name, your address, how close you are to the property, and whether you received a notice letter. I'm also going to ask, there are these applications that are at the back of the room. Anyone with party status, you don't have to do it before you come up and we talk, but by the end of the meeting, I'm going to ask that anyone who's applied for party status fill out one of these forms. So with that, please come up.
Mark, before you start, we did receive one application today from Ken Empey at 487 Lionville Station Road. He could not be in attendance tonight, but he is watching from home and will be here at the remainder of the meeting.
I see that. We do have his application here, so we can start with that one. I know he's adjacent to the property. So does the applicant have any objection to Ken Empey as party status? All right, yes.
Yes, my name is Susan Widener. I live 1/4 of a mile from this proposal. I did not receive notice that I was a party, but I am asking to be considered as a party because I have lived in this township for 38 years and it directly impacts my quality of life, my safety, and that's why I'm asking you to consider me for party status.
Thank you, Ms. Widener. What's your address?
Oh, 75 Jennifer Drive, Chester Springs, 19425.
So
Jennifer,
we have a map up, so I just,
right, it's the last street in Uwchlan Township. It's next to Lion Gate. We're right here,
all right, so it looks like you're,
on a 1/4 mile.
it looks like, I mean, based on the buffers, this map shows yellow buffers that are half a mile from the property boundaries. It looks like you might be a little beyond it. Mr. Calgreca, do you have any objection? Okay, then we'll allow you party status. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Christopher Engel. I live at 348 Valley View Lane, Chester Springs, PA 19425. It's under 500 feet from the boundary of the proposed development.
Valley View Lane.
Yeah, do you want me to point it out?
I mean, I think, Mr. Giordano, yep. That's,
Yeah.
Any objection? No, okay, that's fine. You'll party status. Thank you. Hi,
My name is Melba Matthews. I live at 521 East Uwchlan Avenue, Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. My farm is adjoining the property.
any objection? All right, you'll have party status. Thank you very much. We're not. Thank you.
My name is Leslie Dwyer. I also live on Jennifer Drive, 84 Jennifer Drive, Chester Springs, PA.
What's the address?
84 Jennifer Drive, the same as Susan.
And what's your last name?
Dwyer, Dwyer.
No object. Okay, you'll have
Thank you.
party status.
My name is Richard Siegel.
Okay. And again, anyone who's applying for party status forms, as soon as you can after. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Richard Siegel. My wife and I, Lily, reside at 367 Harshaw Drive, Chester Springs, 19425, and we're about 700 feet from the property.
And is your wife here?
Yes,
Are you seeking party status?
Yes, we
for
are.
both?
for both.
Okay, and what's your wife's name?
Lily, Lally.
Added too many L's. Okay, that's fine, party status.
Dennis Martin, 497 Lionville Station Road, Chester Springs. It's right on my road.
Any objection?
Right, thank you.
Uwchlan, 491 Lionville Station Road, share 400-foot boundary with the property.
So that was 400?
400 feet.
Any objection?
Toby Chadsey, 615 Byers Road. I share, I believe, property corner with the development itself. And also my driveway comes out right at Lionville Station Road, which is
Any objection? And can you give me your name one more time?
Toby, T-O-B-E-Y, Chadsey, C-H-A-D-S-E-Y.
I'm sorry, one more time.
C-H-A-D-S-E-Y.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, party status.
Good evening, David Fertel, 355 Valley View Lane, Chester Springs. Very neighbors of Chris Engel, so 500 feet plus whatever.
Okay, you got party status.
Good.
All right. Oh, got another. Okay.
Lawrence Denny, 107 Bridle Lane, Exton.
107
Correct, Bridle.
Bridle.
Yep, right at that corner in the left, down a little bit, but right at that corner.
And can you give me your name one more time?
Lawrence Denny,
Last name?
Denny.
Denny. Thank you. Any objection? All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate everyone's patience while we went through that process. I am now going to turn this over to the applicant to present the applicant's case. Again, I'll remind anyone who's applied for, or everyone who applied, received party status to fill out the party status forms before the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Lou Caligreco representing the applicant here this evening. I think that you've teed this up well, explaining what we're doing here tonight and for the next few nights when we're going to have the continued hearings on this application. By way of introduction, you've accurately stated that this is really a combined hearing serving two purposes. One is the request of the applicant to have a zoning overlay district on what is now zoned PIC, Planned Industrial Commercial. And you can see it on the slide to the left here, to my left. And what that means is that the planned industrial commercial zoning will remain in place, but that this would be another development option for the property. This PRD, Planned Residential Development, -1. The township already has a PRD ordinance. This would be a different ordinance, PRD 1. And it would overlay that property that you see on the screen, namely the property owned by the Downingtown Area School District and other properties, which Mr. Lingo will testify to here in just a minute. The other property is owned by JJE Associates, and we'll describe where that is. So what this involves is obviously for the township to approve a tentative plan for the property. The zoning needs to be in place, the PRD 1 zoning. The genesis of this request was about a year ago, more than a year ago, probably the beginning of 2025, when our client filed a development plan for an industrial use on the property of approximately 1.6, 1.7 million square feet of what I'll call warehouse space, which is permitted in the PIC district. It was suggested to us that perhaps residential may be a better use on this property. So we've put those industrial plans on hold. They are still pending with the township. If this application doesn't go through, that would be the next application, but we would not be looking for a rezoning to build that park, that industrial park. But we're not going to testify about that tonight. That's not the subject of this hearing. So what Mr. Lingo will testify to is the steps that he and his group have taken over the past year or so to develop the residential plan that you see on the screen in front of you and that Mr. Lingo will testify to. What I often say when we start these proceedings is I know residents have a lot of questions about different aspects of the application. Tonight, I don't know how the timing's going to go because I don't know how many questions there are going to be. But what we plan to do tonight, if we get this far, is I'm going to ask Mr. Lingo to testify about the use, his interest in the property, what he has proposed for the property. And he'll testify mostly regarding the residential component of the property, which, as you may or may not know, is largely restricted to over 55 housing for older adults. A portion of the property we have set aside as part of this plan for what's known as a natatorium use. And I have some folks here tonight that will testify. Mr. Lingo will testify to the residential uses and the open space and all of that, the historic resources. And then hopefully we'll get to the folks that will talk about the natatorium, the indoor swimming operation that's proposed for the property. And Mr. Lingo will also testify about an amphitheater that is proposed for the property that we would be offering for dedication to Uwchlan Township if you're so inclined to operate an amphitheater on this property. Many people have questions about civil engineering, about stormwater, about traffic. I don't know that we're going to get to traffic testimony tonight. So if you're all geared up to get into traffic, I don't mean to disappoint anybody. I'm just laying it out there that when it comes 9:30 and you haven't heard any traffic testimony, that will probably be Monday night based on the way I have this timed out. But again, who knows? We may go right through this, but I'm just putting everybody on notice. Also, don't be frustrated if our witnesses say they don't know an answer to a question. They will probably say that it will be answered by someone else on our development team later in the testimony. Mr. Lingo won't testify as to traffic. The natatorium folks won't testify as to traffic. No one tonight will probably testify as to civil engineering. So if you have those types of questions, please be patient. We do have witnesses coming that will be testifying to that. So with that statement, I think the best thing to do is get on the way here and start presenting some testimony so we can see how much of this we can probably get through tonight. I did hand up prior to the hearing to the board, to the township consultants, a exhibit package. I'm not going to go through each of the exhibits. We'll identify them as we go through the hearing. There'll probably be more added to this list. I hope not many more, because we have 37 exhibits marked already. Some of them are duplicates of what the township has already marked, but no problem with that. What I will say is that I think the first exhibit A1, I will identify just the first 5 exhibits because I don't think we need testimony to establish these exhibits. They are of record. Exhibit A1 is the original PRD application, which was filed back in September of 2025. And then what you'll find is there were subsequent amendments and supplements to that filing. And that's what Exhibit A2, Exhibit A3, Exhibit A4, Exhibit A5, those 5 exhibits take us to where we are tonight. And that is the latest application was filed in June, the latest amendment, and all the testimony you hear tonight about asking for plan approval will be based on that June submission. What Mr. Lingo will testify to is that the residential density has decreased with each subsequent plan amendment. Other features have been added to the plan since the initial filing, but so as not to confuse everybody about what was filed in September and what was filed in December and what was filed in February, we're going to be focusing, the plan we're asking the board to approve is the amended plan application that was filed in June, which again was a culmination of 4 or 5 prior plan submissions and amendments. So hopefully all that makes sense. If it doesn't, it will make sense by the time Mr. Lingo is done testifying. With that said, I'm going to ask that Mr. Lingo be sworn, and we'll begin with the questioning and the testimony.
Do. Lingo.
Could you please state your name and business address for the record?
Gregory Lingo, 14 South Jackson Street, Media, Pennsylvania.
And what is your connection to the applicant Rockwell Downingtown, LLC?
I am the 100% owner of the entity and also the managing member.
And are you authorized to appear and testify on behalf of Rockwell Downingtown, LLC at this hearing?
Yes,
And by way of an agreement of purchase and sale dated November 14, 2024, with the Downingtown Area School District, is that the document through which you're asserting equitable ownership of the 5 tax parcels that the solicitor identified at the beginning of the hearing?
yes,
Okay, and that agreement of sale is marked as Exhibit A7 in the board's package, correct?
correct.
Now, those were 5 tax parcels. There's actually 6 tax parcels that comprise the present application and the map and text amendment, correct?
Correct.
The 6th tax parcel, UPI number 33-1-17.1, is not owned by the Downingtown Area School District, correct?
Correct.
Who is that owned by?
An entity that's owned and managed by Eli Kahn.
And that would be JJE Associates Limited Partnership, correct?
That sounds correct, yes.
And that agreement of sale, with the salient terms redacted, is marked as Exhibit A8 in the board's package, correct?
Correct.
So all this assemblage, the Downingtown parcels that were identified earlier, the, we'll call them the JJE Associate parcel, which you just identified, that's the landmass that forms the basis of this tentative plan application, as well as the text and map amendment application, correct?
Correct.
All right. I noticed that I should have asked you this question previously. What is your connection to Rockwell Haywood? I asked you about your connection to Rockwell Downingtown. What is your connection to Rockwell Haywood?
Similarly, I'm the 100% owner of that entity and also the managing member.
And if this project is approved, all of these tax parcels will be merged into one and into single ownership, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're authorized to appear and testify on behalf of Rockwell Haywood tonight, just as you were for Rockwell Downingtown, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, referring to Exhibit A9, and I don't know how we're going to do this, Tara. I don't know. Is that Exhibit A9 that we have up on the screen? It's our Chesco Views aerial of the property, if you can find that, and my associate Ryan Furlong can assist. I know it's in the board's package. I want to make sure we get the right document on the screen. You don't have it? Ryan, can you? Way to rotate that? Greg, you can probably take that mic and go up to the screen if you want. I mean, you do whatever you want. You can sit here.
Comfortable here?
All right.
Yeah.
Because I can't. Your eyes are better than mine. Here's a pointer somewhere here. Here it is. Tara gave me that. All right. So on the TV screen, or on the screen to my left that's now being shown in the meeting room, we've marked Exhibit A9, which is a Chesco Views aerial of the property. Using that exhibit, can you briefly describe for the record where this property, and when I say property, I mean all the tax parcels that we talked about earlier. Can you describe where it's situated?
Yeah. Other than the 2 vacant structures designated as the Class 3 historic structures, the property is undeveloped land that's located north of the Pennsylvania Turnpike, that's effectively bisected by Lionville Station Road. A mix of land uses surround the property, with industrial uses on the opposite side of the turnpike, residential to the north, commercial uses to the west and southeast, and an agricultural property to the east.
All right. Now, the next exhibit we have is Exhibit A10, which I don't know if that's, can you put that up on the screen? There you go. It probably doesn't lend itself to, obviously, it doesn't lend itself to anybody reading it from the audience. This is the proposed text amendment that I was referring to earlier, correct?
Yes.
And this would do 2 things. this amendment, if it's adopted by the board. It would allow for the PRD1 development, and it would also change the zoning map of the township to allow for this overlay district on the property, correct?
Correct.
And the area that's on the screen as part of Exhibit A10 that's shaded in brown or tan, that is the extent of where the PRD1 overlay district would be, correct?
That is correct. As you're looking at the screen here, the piece up here to the top left that has kind of hash lines, that is the piece that Rockwell Haywood has under agreement, and the remainder is the Downingtown School District property that Rockwell Downingtown LLC has under agreement.
Now, you heard me testify earlier. Well, I didn't testify, but you heard me say earlier when I introduced the various exhibits, the first 4 or 5, that this was an iterative process. What was filed in September has been changed 3 or 4 times to get to where we are today with the text amendment, correct?
Correct.
All right. Did the applicant retain Chester Valley engineers to prepare a tentative planned residential development plan for the property?
Yes.
Okay. And Exhibit A11, which should be the next exhibit, is that the latest revised version of the tentative plan residential? Let's see if we can get that up there. That's the cover sheet of the application,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And collectively, I will say that Exhibit A11, as I said earlier, contains a number of plan sheets. This is just the cover sheet. I think it contains 43 plan sheets. We're not going to show all the plan sheets here unless somebody has a question about any particular one. But that is the plan that you're seeking approval from this board, or for which you're seeking approval from this board, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, that's a black and white plan. I think the next exhibit we have A12. There you go. The colored rendering of the plan.
That's the industrial plan.
That's the industrial plan. Oh, we can't show that. Is there any way we can get the whole plan? Or is it too big for the... There you go. Maybe a little bigger.
Great.
All right. So the exhibit that's on here, that's marked Exhibit A11. And that'll be the plan, by the way, through which most of our consultants will be testifying to tonight, this rendered, this what I'll call the colored rendered plan. And that's really just a visual representation of the black and white plan that was filed in June, the full engineering plan, correct?
Right. And this plan, I believe, is Exhibit A12.
A12, that's correct. I'm sorry, Exhibit A12. All right. Now, using Exhibit A12, why don't you walk through the plan, and you do this however you feel comfortable in describing the various uses on the property.
Okay. We are proposing a residential community of 463 age-restricted homes that are comprised of 462 new construction dwellings and 1 historic structure, the Leah Phipps House, that will be converted for residential use. In addition, we're proposing 30 market rate dwellings on the parcel that's in the upper left without age restrictions. They would be built on tax parcel 33-1-17-1 in the northwest corner of the tract, and will have frontage on the Haywood Drive extension. I mentioned that there are a couple of historic properties on the site that we're going to maintain and preserve. There's a house along here, as well as a silo and a garage, and then there's another one around here. We have the John Phipps house that's Historic Resource 10, and based on the feedback that we received from staff, that will become a non-residential use. We also plan to demolish the ahistorical accessory outbuildings located near these structures, but we'll work with the Historic Commission on that. As far as access, the community is going to be accessed via 2 township roads. We have along the bottom here, we have Route 113 that connects to Lionville Station Road, and then Lionville Station Road bisects the community. And then to the upper left, we're going to be connecting the community to Haywood Drive. We have a pedestrian network and open space that we're proposing here. There's a pedestrian trail and sidewalk network that will link the property and connect to an outdoor amphitheater. The outdoor amphitheater is located right there next to the public parking. This brown building that you see here will be the aquatic center, and there'll be some shared parking. That's also going to serve as the trailhead for a trail that goes through this area. It's about a 1-mile nature trail. Running north-south on the project along the eastern side will be a 6-foot pedestrian paved path so that folks can go up, kind of up and down, and that'll ultimately connect over towards the Tractor Supply sidewalk to the east. Part of the open space we've negotiated and discussed with staff here that will be donating or conserving a large portion of this area with the Pickering and French Creek Association. We'll talk more about that as we proceed. But in total, we're preserving 127.5 acres of open space for the community and the township residents. There will be a clubhouse in the community. We're building this clubhouse on the northern portion of the track east of Lionville Station Road's roundabout. Where you're coming down Haywood Drive, there will be a roundabout circle here for folks to navigate. This clubhouse will absolutely not have outdoor pickle courts. That's been made quite clear to us. But we will minimally have indoor and outdoor gathering spaces, an exercise facility, meeting rooms, and a pool. I touched on the natatorium earlier. That facility will be approximately 7,800 square feet adjacent to the outdoor amphitheater, which is proposed on the southern portion of the site, west of Lionville Station Road. I know that some people are concerned about the traffic generated by the aquatic center. We have both our traffic expert here as well as the operators for the aquatic center. We don't necessarily think all traffic's bad. We think that this traffic pales at times in comparison to, other events that are held in the area. For instance, the thousands of people that come to Milky Way Farms for pumpkins, and I think they have 5,000 students a year come there for educational purposes. We think that's all really good traffic coming to the area, just like we feel like the natatorium is going to provide the same.
One correction, Greg, I think you misspoke. You said a 7,800 square foot natatorium? 78,000 square foot natatorium. Very good. Can you describe briefly the PRD ordinance, the draft ordinance that we've submitted requires that you have at least a couple of different housing types. What housing types are proposed for the PRD and where are they situated?
We're proposing a mix of single family detached, and they're somewhat interspersed near one another, but there's single family detached and semi-detached twin residential units. And again, we tried to intersperse them kind of throughout the community.
Okay. I think the next exhibit, Exhibit A13, is a conceptual elevation of the detached dwelling units of what they might look like.
Correct. And prior to final plan submissions, we intend to work with the township and its professionals on community design standards for the homes to be built here.
And that was one of the recommendations of the township consultants, correct?
Correct. And we've done that in other communities, and it really turns out great.
And the next slide, Exhibit A14, would be the attached product.
Yes.
Okay. So essentially you have single family detached, and the lot sizes for the single family detached will vary.
Correct.
And then you have what I would call a duplex or townhouse development mixed throughout the community as well, correct?
Yeah, these carriage homes that are depicted here, we plan on building here.
Will each of the residential units be Energy Star certified?
Yes.
Can you briefly just describe what that means?
There's a process that's home builders can be held to a standard, which is, in this case, Energy Star. And then there's a third-party inspection that certifies that the homes are, in fact, built to that level of code. It's above and beyond the standard building codes.
And that is a requirement of the PRD ordinance, the draft PRD ordinance, correct?
Correct.
All right. You'd heard me speak earlier, and I don't want you to spend a whole lot of time on what was filed in September and how it's changed over time, but just to give the board some perspective of the various iterations as to where you started and where we ended up today. Could you briefly run through your original thoughts for the property and how you got to where you are today?
For sure. Even prior to the September 25th submission, we began modifying our submissions. We've held over 110 neighbor and Uwchlan staff meetings and discussions with other stakeholders. And we feel like with each of those meetings, the plan has become better. When we first put the property under agreement, our first meeting was with Milky Way Farms. Then we met with the team from Save Lionville Farms and some of our other neighbors, Eli Kahn, the Hankin Group, and then ultimately the EAC and others. And I think proof of that extraordinary neighbor outreach is evident by how small this gathering is today versus what this property had brought in from a public standpoint when other uses were proposed. Initially in 2025, in February, we submitted the by right conditional use plan. That was roughly 1.5 or 1.6 million square feet of light industrial warehouses. And we were encouraged to create an active adult residential plan instead of the industrial plan. And at first we created a plan that had 733 units with only 54 acres of open space. That's a plan that we never submitted because the staff here helped whittle down the number of units considerably in good, healthy dialogue back and forth. We met with the Planning Commission informally in the spring of 2025 to solicit feedback really with both plans. Does the public prefer the residential active adult plan or does it prefer the industrial plan? And following those planning meeting sessions, we waited on the township to kind of cull the feedback from the residents, and overwhelmingly the feedback was to, one, reduce the size of the natatorium. It was that they would prefer the active adult plan over the industrial plan. They wanted us to get rid of the affordable housing that we had on that plan in lieu of adding additional open space. And in working with the Save Lionville Farms folks, we set a goal of preserving 100 acres of open space. Additionally, the township resulting from that meeting mandated that we purchase the property next door so that we could connect Haywood Drive to the community. So then we modified the plan once again and came back in front of the Planning Commission in September 2025 with a plan for 605 or 609 dwelling units. We then changed it in November 2025 down to 587. We then changed it again in January down to 583. Then we changed it again in June with the current plan that we have, which is the 493 dwellings, 30 of which are market rate detached, 342 single family detached age restricted, 120 age restricted semi-detached carriages, and the historic conversion. But in addition to reducing the density to below 2 units per acre, our active adult plan has changed considerably. You know, as I mentioned, we put Eli Kahn's property under agreement. We also reduced the size of the natatorium by 33%. And in doing that, we urged our operator of the natatorium to get rid of non-swimming functions. Initially in their plan, they had basketball courts and some other things that they pulled out. Now it's just focused on therapy, school kids, family recreation, senior programming, competitive swimming. And the max capacity we limited to 6 events per year. In addition to that, we worked with the school district, who's our seller, to see if they would provide parking lots during those max capacity events, their parking lots, and they were open to that. So our operator could use Downingtown School District parking lots and bus people to and from during a max capacity event. We removed the apartments, as I mentioned. We increased the open space from 54 acres to 127.5 acres. We increased contiguous open space, including that mile-long trail that goes through the preserved land. We increased the buffer along Milky Way Farms to 300 feet. We added landscaping and a deer fence along the common property line with Milky Way Farms. We removed the dog park that we had on the plan at the urging of Milky Way Farms. And we agreed to add language to our HOA documentation detailing the current use of the existing agricultural property, also at Milky Way Farms' request. And it was important to them, and I get it, that, you know, a dog park near cows wouldn't be great. And they also they pointed out that they wanted to just make sure it was clear that their use was in place before residents moved in the event that somebody was to complain about a smell or anything else emanating from the farm. We also increased the buffer. Bobby, can you switch back to the plan that we have? Sorry.
The rendered plan, which was what,
Yes.
A12?
Yeah, we also increased the buffer up here next to Kent Empey's house and the other neighbors along the northern part of the property. We increased it from 150 feet to 175 feet. We also, at Mr. Empey's urging, there was a stormwater management facility that was kind of closer to the property line. We moved that down closer to the cul-de-sac here so that that strand of trees could be preserved. And then also in our discussions with the township, we agreed that we would put a post and rail fence back along this property here so that we could create an east-west corridor for wildlife. We also, in some of these other changes, we talked about the pedestrian network and connectivity, and then we were mandating the homes to be Energy Star. We'll be installing EV chargers. We've agreed to do community design standards. And ultimately, this plan, this from a tax standpoint, is really beneficial, more so than the industrial plan. Our fiscal study suggests that this will produce $332,000 per year to the township and $4.8 million per year to the Downingtown School District versus the by right conditional plan, which was $101,000 to the township and $2.3 million to the school district. Bobby, would you mind going back to the other PowerPoint that we had submitted? No, he has that there. As you flip through here, this kind of is the different plans that we had that I just detailed. And then as you work your way through the plans, this is kind of where we ended with that 492 plus the renovated house and 127.5 acres of open space. Another couple of aspects that we added, if you could keep going, Bobby, sorry. We added a monarch.
But I want to, Greg, I just want to slow you down here a little bit because we have these, for the record purposes, I want to identify the exhibits that the room is actually looking at. So
yeah, this is a PowerPoint, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Let me catch up with you here. So Exhibit A15, I think, is what we're looking at now on the screen, which is a conceptual rendering of some of the passive open space for the development. The monarch butterfly is on the screen right now. That's the slide. And then we have a nature corridor slide and a conservation area slide, all collectively marked as Exhibit A15. So now if you want to go through these in sequence.
Great, thank you. This is something we hadn't thought of initially, but this came out of our meetings, ultimately really with the Save Lionville Farms folks, but great idea that we are right in the flight path of the monarch. So toward the eastern side of the property adjacent to Milky Way Farms, we planned on creating this monarch way station. If you could keep going, Bobby, on your next. This is a rendering of the wildlife corridor that we would be establishing between the back of the properties and where Kent Empey and his neighbors live in the northern part of the property. One of the other things that we hadn't initially realized was the beauty of this tupelo tree that's currently in the middle of the farm down towards the tractor supply in this southeast corner. So we had an arborist come out, and even though the tree hasn't really been maintained well, it's extremely viable still. So we have worked saving this tree into our plan, and we've kept all of the construction and any activities away from the drip line in a significant fashion so that this tree can be maintained.
All right, let's go.
This is how we envision that
Okay.
when it's done. I don't know, is there any other ones there, Mark? This looks, this is the area that we've negotiated, that I've discussed with earlier, that we've negotiated with the township in lieu of density, that this would be turned into essentially a meadow area. We've hired Malfi Designs as well as Wild Bird landscapes to work with French and Pickering Creek Trust as well as the Environmental Advisory Council to design this. And it would be our responsibility to install and get this up and running. And ultimately, it would be up to the homeowners association to maintain.
Okay, let's stop there. Can we go back to the Exhibit A12, which is the colored rendering? Because I want you to identify that proposed conservation area on Exhibit A12.
Yeah, in some of our other earlier renderings, this whole area here that I'm circling, so it's from essentially the silo down to where we're looking to build the amphitheater and then the natatorium. That area we're going to preserve. So as you're driving north on Lionville Station Road, it's essentially the land to the left. And this happens to be the headwaters of the Pickering Creek through here somewhere. So we're working with them closely to clean out the invasives that are there now. We haven't started this work yet, but it's our intention. That's part of the conservation of that. So the land that the township is conserving will be increased in value through what we do and in that work that we're doing with the Environmental Advisory Council and French and Pickering Creeks Trust.
So as I understand it, that's the plan at this point. Obviously, you're not entering into any easement or maintenance agreement with the trust unless you know you have a plan, a tentative plan approved. So that's been discussed preliminarily with them.
That's correct. And we've shared versions of a document, but correct, nothing's been executed.
And that would be finalized, obviously, pending the board's direction on how it intends to proceed with this development or not proceed with the development, correct? Okay. But the ultimate game plan is that if this gets approved, the French and Pickering Creek Trust would essentially be maintaining that area. It looks like in gray on the slide and in green in the middle of the property.
Not necessarily. It would be maintained by the homeowners association and at the expense of the homeowners association. We have agreed with French and Pickering that we would allot money towards them out of the homeowners association budget on both an upfront basis and an annual basis so that they can come and monitor it to make sure that it's being managed well.
And let's talk about that, back up a couple of questions. The open space, an area, really any area that's not comprised of a dwelling unit, will be under the ownership and maintenance of a homeowners association, correct?
That's correct.
And at this time, do you envision one homeowners association for both the age-restricted and non-age-restricted units?
I do.
Okay, so it would be one HOA that governs the entire community, correct?
Correct.
All right. And the final PRD plan application would obviously include a draft HOA document for inspection and approval by the township and the township solicitor, correct?
Correct.
All right. Just going to skip over a couple of questions here. One thing I did want to bring your attention to, I think you misspoke when you said there would be 6 special events a year at the natatorium. I believe the ordinance draft limits that to 4 special events, correct?
I misspoke.
That's okay. And you did speak, I think, earlier in your testimony about, and I don't want to get too much into the natatorium use with you. We have other witnesses to testify about that. But you did testify to the fact that the school district has agreed, the Downingtown School District has agreed to set aside overflow parking for those special event occasions, correct?
Correct. Those events would be coordinated with the school district. So if they were having, for instance, a high school football game at the same time, that the parking lot may not be available, so they would work together to coordinate those events.
And Exhibit A23 in the board's package evidences the school district's cooperation in that regard. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You also spoke about an amphitheater being added to the plan. I don't think that was on the earlier iterations of the plan. I believe that showed up for the first time in the June application, correct?
Correct. That was a result of recent conversations that we had with staff and with other stakeholders. We think it's a great idea.
And we have an exhibit that depicts that. It's Exhibit A16. Hopefully it's the next. We're getting there. We'll be coming back to some of these photos later. Here you go. can you describe what Exhibit A16 is?
Yes, adjacent to the parking lot that's going to have kind of a dual purpose. There's a parking lot that the natatorium will be using, but it's also a parking lot at the trailhead. So this is a trail here that connects and goes through the open space. It's about a 1 mile long trail. In working with the township engineer and our engineer, we have determined from DEP that we can in fact pave this trail even through some riparian areas, and that'll help with ADA accessibility. But the amphitheater would be built by us, and then I believe we'd like to donate or dedicate that to the township if the township would like to take dedication. And then maintenance around everything else would be managed by our homeowners association.
And if the township determines that it does not want this amphitheater, then that area, I presume, would simply become meadowland?
Correct.
There'd be no improvement on it. So that would be a determination that would be up to Uwchlan Township. And any operations, programming, acts, performances, that would be, again, up to Uwchlan Township as owner of the amphitheater, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the historic resources on the property, and I think we're going to have to go back a couple of slides. As I understand it, we have a couple of historic resources. I think they're called the Phipps houses.
Well, yeah, right. This rendering here is a kind of a detached garage near the silo that we intend to renovate. So this is the existing picture, and the next one would be the rendering of it renovated. And that's renovated in the meadow that we're creating with French and Pickering. The next slide is the John Phipps house.
Okay, the John Phipps house, the slide the board's looking at right now is, I think, Exhibit A17.
Correct.
And describe what we're looking at.
All right. So this home would be, this is the one that's closer to the silo, and it would be at the urging of staff to not be a residential use. We would renovate the outside of it, again, remove any ahistorical renovations or additions that were added to the building, renovate it in a similar manner to what you see here in this rendering. And then however it was used, it would be, however it was to be used would come back to Uwchlan Township for approval. Right now, we're looking at it as some kind of a community function area, possibly for our community, like a mail room for packages to come, or but we don't know yet what that use will be. We just know it will not be a residential use. And then as you scroll down, this is the Lee Phipps house currently. This house is closer to the kind of the tractor supply side of the property. Also, you know, if you can, this is what it would look like rendered. This currently, we are planning on this to be a residence. If we were to change that in any way, again, it would have to come back to the township for any approval. Part of this, part of our application of preserving both the John and Lee Phipps houses, there's a ginkgo tree that's in front of the Lee Phipps home that we would also look to save. And again, the Lee Phipps home is going to be listed as residential on our plan. And if anything was to change, we'd have to come back to the township for that.
And did you have an opportunity to review the December 1, 2025 review letter comments of the Uwchlan Township Historic Commission with regard to these improvements?
Yes.
And the Historic Commission, I'll just paraphrase and ask if you agree or not agree, indicated that the Historic Resource Impact Study, which we submitted in September of 2025, revised in 2025, is satisfactory subject to two conditions, and I'm going to read them to you. One, that the existing silo off the Lee Phipps house and the outbuilding and wall in front of the John Phipps house be preserved. Are you doing that? Are you proposing to do that?
We are proposing to do that, yes.
And that any historical artifacts uncovered during renovation be provided to the Historic Commission for preservation. You agree to abide by that condition, correct?
Correct.
And then the applicant did agree, as I understand, to present the Historic Commission with the means and methods that you will use to accomplish the finished product, which you just testified to on the slides, correct?
That's correct.
So you'll be back before the Historic Commission, if the plan is approved, between tentative and final, to solidify those renovation proposals,
That's
correct?
correct. Yes.
All right. The Historic Commission also recommended a deed restriction be placed on each of those house, I'll call them the Phipps houses, preserving them against future demolition and requiring review of the commission if there are any other changes made to the structures. Are you okay with that recommendation?
Yes.
Okay. Did the applicant prepare and submit an energy conservation statement with its application, which was last revised in January 2026?
Yes, we did. And we have many proposed conservation measures worked into this PRD ordinance. In addition to the Energy Star efficiency of the residential homes, there will be EV charging stations. We're going to explore green roofs where possible. But the site layout itself, a lot of the things that we talked about earlier of saving the ginkgo tree and the black tupelo in the southeast corner of the site, and then expanding landscaping and making sure that we're going through the area that we're conserving and ridding it of any invasives and that type of stuff.
And that conservation statement is marked as Exhibit 8A18 in the board's package, correct?
Correct.
You've
Correct.
also prepared an Exhibit A19, or at least your staff did under your direction, which was a written statement of public interest. And put in layman's terms, it was essentially a statement as to why this proposed PRD, in your opinion, would be in the best interest of Uwchlan Township. Can you speak to that?
Yes, we feel like it will be in many ways. The PRD helps meet the demand for senior housing, the natatorium, amphitheater, and some of the other recreational facilities helps with recreation. We have the open space preservation. In the comprehensive plan for this property, there was a 24-acre park, and we're far exceeding that with our submission. We have connectivity to the best we can here. This community doesn't necessarily connect to the Struble Trail and other trails, but we're connecting it out to everywhere that it's adjacent to, so that we can increase connectivity, and then hopefully in the future that connectivity just continues to build. And connecting to Haywood Drive is all in conformance with the township's comprehensive plan.
Now, the township has marked as exhibits the July 15, 2026 report of the Uwchlan Township Building Inspector Fire Marshal Michael Holmes. It is also marked as an exhibit the Chief of the Lionville Fire Company, Michael Lamb's report dated July 16, 2026. And the township has also marked the Chief of Operations of the Uwchlan Ambulance Corps correspondence dated March 11, 2026, describing potential impact that the development could have on their respective resources, staffing, and they recommended some opportunities to mitigate those potential impacts through a capital contribution, which would be offered through Uwchlan Township. Collectively, you've reviewed all three of those reports, correct?
Yes.
And is the applicant willing to discuss the options raised in those review letters with the township should the tentative plan application be approved?
Yes. We've met with these folks. We met with Captain Paul Shaner, Steve Nash, William Wells, Nathan Weigel, and Jason Brooks. We're in receipt of the letter. We understand that the EMS serves not only Uwchlan Township, but Upper Uwchlan, 5/6 of West Vincent, West Pikeland, Charlestown, and Wallace Townships, with their main station being in Uwchlan and a substation being in Upper Uwchlan. They get their revenue through billing, subscriptions, and then lastly, township contributions. Once we know what's going to be approved here, we will work closely with them to address their concerns, given a variety of factors. Together, we think we'll be better able to estimate how this project will increase their call volume And as far as the fire side of things, of course, our new residents would be subject to the Uwchlan Township fire tax like all other residents. But we're also open to factoring additional contributions toward EMS, fire, ambulance, and police at each property transfer. This community that we're talking about is by no means an affordable housing community, but we do want to be mindful that each of these purchasers are going to be towards the end of their prime earning years, and we want to be careful with how much the community is burdened. But at the same time, our project will increase call volume over the 750 calls that they get now per year for the fire department over the 3 townships that they operate in. So we think there will be an increase in calls, and we want to make sure that we work with them, because right now it's an undetermined or unknown degree to which those calls would be increased.
Okay, at this time, I don't have any further questions for Mr. Lingo.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
So you commented on the comparison of the warehouse and the residential in terms of the fiscal impacts. The residential, I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head. I think the residential for Uwchlan is 214K or 204K. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you the notes. The tax benefits, we anticipate $332,000 per year to the township and $4.8 million per year to the school district with this PRD plan versus respectively $101,000 and $2.3 million.
And that's just revenue though. That doesn't consider expenditures, right?
But no, it takes a full account of the fiscal impact. And we have a fiscal impact study that we've submitted. So yes, it does take into account.
That doesn't include the EMS contributions that we just, or impacts on the EMS services.
Work with them to figure out what impacts.
But you would agree that the impacts would be much greater on the Uwchlan side. I'm not speaking on the DSAD side, but on the Uwchlan side, the impacts are going to be clearly greater on the residential than would be for the warehouse.
Well,
for instance, the impact on police department for a warehouse is going to be much less than a 402 person residential, and same with fire and same with the ambulance. Clearly, with the ambulance.
Correct. And we think that this kind of increased growth in and around Uwchlan Township has been incremental and distributed geographically a little bit. So I don't know that this community all of a sudden tips the scales. And
no, I know it's incremental, and I'm not suggesting that it's all on one development.
Point of clarification, I would note that Exhibit A36, which is an emergency services impact study, which was prepared by one of our consultants, he will testify probably on Monday at the next hearing. So we can get more into the weeds on that. And then
I just wanted to clarify because it was stated in this presentation that I think we have to be careful with that. I would like to be careful with that number. While it may be true in isolation, I think from the township's perspective, I just want to clarify that doesn't include all the expenditures and impacts that we will probably have to cover in addition. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Just a couple notes based on the comments that you offered. Starting at the beginning, when you were kind of giving us an overview, you described the central corridor of open space as donated open space. Can you clarify that comment on who's donating?
Yep. So we're essentially conserving it, and we're effectively donating it. Not the title to that is going to be deed restricted and conserved open space under Pickering and French Creek's Natural Trust, I believe is the name of their organization. So they'll oversee that to ensure that it's conserved forever. And it'll be deed restricted forever to not be built upon.
But it's not donated.
It'll still be owned by the HOA though.
Right. Is the township going to be purchasing that open space?
The township is contributing towards that conservation. So they're basically buying the conservation. And that, in a sense, reduced the density. And that was one of the things that came from the June 2025 Planning Commission meeting that the residents wanted to utilize some of this open space funds that has been set aside to knock the density down on this property.
I just wanted to clarify the donation concept because if there's a transaction and a purchase taking place, it's not a donation, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's conserved.
Okay, you also stated after meeting with the, I think you referred to them as the Save the Farm group, you set a goal to save 100 acres on the property. Did you achieve that goal with the most recent application?
We far exceeded it, yes.
And does that include the land that's being conserved in conjunction with the open space purchase?
It does.
How much acreage of that 100 acres is located outside of the central corridor that falls within the conservation easement?
So the goal that the Save Lionville Farms team had for us from the first meeting that we met was to preserve 100 acres of open space. We're currently at 127.5 acres of open space. As far as how much is in the preserved area, give us a moment, we'll try to find that. Yeah, we'll get back to you. That we'll look that up.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. I don't know if on the map you can show the other areas that are considered open space. Is it contiguous open space outside of the central corridor, or is it pockets of space?
It's both, actually. Bobby, if you can go back to the
A12.
probably below that. Yeah, or this one here.
That's
so
good.
This area is the conserved area, kind of from including the silo down, not including the historic house up here. That's outside of the conserved area. And then it goes down to essentially where the amphitheater will be. But the other open space along here that connects to it, and this open space up here, and then that comes down along here, that's all outside of it. I'm sorry, yeah. In the northeastern quadrant, that property, as well as the open space that works its way all the way down towards the Tractor Supply Shopping Center, that is all contiguous open space that is not connected to the open space on the left side of Lionville Station Road because Lionville Station Road bisects it. Does that make sense?
It does. Is the open space outside of the conservation easement also open accessible to the public?
Yeah, correct, it is. So this, there's going to be a trailhead and parking lot here, which is next to the silo area, just to the left of the traffic circle. Then there will be just to the north of the natatorium, there will be another trailhead next to the amphitheater. That path connects to each other here. And then on the upper right corner, northeastern side, one of the things that was important as we were working with this plan was that folks could park here at the cul-de-sac, and then if they, this will not necessarily have trails in it, but they'll be back here, and then along here, these areas just to the south of that northeast cul-de-sac will be where the Monarch Way Station is planned.
And is there parking reflected in the plan in the cul-de-sac?
There is some parking up here at the cul-de-sac, but then there's also some parking throughout the project,
Okay. And
as well as off-street.
That's not assigned to a home?
Correct. There's parking assigned to a home, which is essentially their driveway and their garage, but outside of that, there's additional parking.
You had mentioned that the HOA would be in charge of the management of the conservation space in the corridor in the middle of the map. Is that the same situation for the Monarch Garden and the Wildlife Corridor and other open space reflected on the plan?
Yes.
That's under
And
HOA.
in addition to that, the HOA, when these folks walk out of their house, everything will be managed by the HOA, so that other than the fence that we've agreed to put up here at the Wildlife Corridor on the northern part of the property adjacent to Ken Empey's property, other than that fence, there won't be fences throughout the project. French and Pickering Trust has asked that we put some fences along protected areas just to make sure that people aren't drifting where they shouldn't. But other than that, they're really just for protection purposes. Now I did mention that we are going to be, at the behest of Milky Way Farms, we are going to be installing a deer fence along the easternmost boundary of the property, kind of where it touches Milky Way Farms.
Okay. I think the rest of my questions are probably best served by future witnesses. So.
Can I ask, William, do you want to go? Yeah, I just wanted to, I wanted to address the question. You had the written statement of public interest. I did want to ask about the age restricted 55 plus residential housing. This may be more appropriate for the fiscal impact discussion, so just let me know, but you did bring it up. And you cited the quote in the comprehensive plan that we want to support housing options that meet the needs of aging residents wishing to remain in the community. You know, I think obviously 55 and plus, it isn't for aging, but when you look at the price of the houses, do you think that the community is really supporting this community's ability to move into housing?
Yeah, that's a good question. In our experience with 55 plus active adult housing, it's mostly served by people that want to be near family. And typically they like to be within a zip code or two of where they're from. So we do think that this is going to kind of serve this greater Chester Springs area. And we think that people are going to want to be here because they want to be near family.
So again, if you want to defer to the fiscal impact, I'm fine with this, but in the reports, the median age the minimum annual household income for an age qualified single family was estimated to be $272,000 a year for the household. And if you look at the Uwchlan comprehensive plan in 2017, so it's a little dated, our median income was $134,000. Add 30% or so, it's probably closer to 175. You know, I'm concerned if you could maybe comment on whether that supports at least the Uwchlan community's ability to stay in housing in the. It seems to me that it might be very difficult to move many aging members of our community into these homes.
Based on income and the statement you just made, I appreciate the concern. I will say that house values, and really a credit to Downingtown School District and the STEM school, that the homes that people are going to be selling are worth far more than they were when this was done in 2017. So when you're buying a house, it's a combination of how big your mortgage is, and in this case, a lot of folks, because of the equity that's been built up because of the demand to live here, we think that'll really do a good job at offsetting the cost to entry in the community.
All right, thank you.
No, you actually, my colleagues asked many of the questions I was going to ask, and following up on that previous question, really what I'm hearing is it seems as if the thinking is that current residents will be selling their homes, particularly those who are 55 and over, selling their homes just to move into these homes, because as my colleague just stated, the price point would seemingly seem as if they're perhaps overpriced or outpriced by these models. And the concern is that perhaps they really don't address the need of housing for the senior population. They certainly address the need for those who might want to be in this community and they're older, but not exactly a housing for the aging population. So that's a concern. Since my thunder has been stolen with my other two colleagues as far as for the other questions which you addressed, my question will then kind of center around the natatorium. With 4 events, I don't know if that's the minimum or maximum events that are planned for the year, it seemed as if there is potential of underutilization of that property. So has there been discussion about that it could be a property or a building that's not used?
That'll be a great segue that the next witness here is going to be Stu Isaacs with the Phil Aquatics group. So he'll be able to answer specifically the programming and the operation.
I have two more. Just circling back to that comment regarding, you had mentioned, the trend was kind of that seniors like to live a zip code or two within family, and it certainly seems like residents in the area that are aging might be interested in this community. Tying that back to the connection to our comprehensive plan regarding pedestrian connectivity and transportation infrastructure, we're unfortunately at a position of losing our very last SEPTA stop within Uwchlan Township. And so I'm wondering if you've given any thought to connectivity with this community to the rest of the township as opposed to just connectivity within the community itself.
Just where the property is located, it's not necessarily easy to walk from here off of the property, but we're making it as easy as possible in that we're going to have this 6-foot wide sidewalk on the east side of Lionville Station Road along the whole perimeter of that road, where that's going to connect down to essentially Route 113 and the shopping center next to it. And then there is going to be part of this nature trail that goes along here. One of the things that the Environmental Advisory Committee mentioned, which is a really good idea, was rather than crossing this, call it creek area twice with a nature trail and a bridge, why don't we make part of this bridge pedestrian and it'll connect to that trail? So folks could walk from here kind of out towards like the skating area that way. So given its location in the township, it's not necessarily a place that's pedestrian friendly, but we're trying to connect it so that in the event in the future that other connections happen down the road, we will be able to plug into that really easily. And it's the nature of how people travel has changed considerably. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why SEPTA has decided to leave. We don't know how cars are going to be utilized in the future, and if people are going to be ride sharing or if there's going to be autonomous vehicles. So we think we're setting this up the best we can for what we know now for the future.
Okay, and then thank you. The last question I had is regarding the Energy Star certification standard. Did you consider building to a LEED standard within the community?
We don't, we have, that was not one of the considerations that we had. We felt like Energy Star was a significant step above what the current building codes are. And the current building codes each year are improving in terms of energy conservation. Initially in our first draft, we said that we would build to an Energy Star level, and the township staff quickly pointed out, well, we want to see that certified, and the Planning Commission said the same thing to us. And we're happy to go through that extra expense of having a third party certify that the buildings are built to that standard.
And was there any consideration given to the township's Ready for 100 commitment as far as the planning of, I know that you have a consideration of solar, but any long-term planning as far as transitioning to a more energy efficient than just the Energy Star?
Yeah, there's the home, both natural gas and electric is available onto this site. We obviously also have a natural gas or a gas pipeline in the upper right-hand corner of the property that there is the ability to tap into that in the future. We've confirmed with the pipeline company that could be tapped in, certainly for uses on the industrial side. Don't know quite how that would be utilized for the homes, but we want to build these homes at a standard that's higher than current standards, and the ability to grow from there.
Good. Thank you.
Sorry, I just have a point of clarification. Excuse me, I'm sure it's in the material, but what's the lot sizes of these homes?
It ranges. So the homes, it's really about how kind of on the single homes, how wide the lots are. And we have that. The semi-detached are 3,000 square foot lots, and the single family detached dwellings are 6,000 square foot lots with varying lot widths. So there will be different house types. And again, this will be on the bottom right-hand corner of what's on the screen there. Shows the kind of 4 different product types in terms of size.
Okay. I'm just thinking as far as for the density of the homes that I'm buying a $1.2 million home. I'm not gonna reach out and touch my neighbor. And will residents have a space in between, just kind of the aesthetics of the development?
That's a great question. We see that active adult buyers are not coming here for yard size necessarily. And in this case, there's the natural push and pull of the closer we can put the homes together, the more open space we can have. And that was really our big focus here.
Yeah, well, I have one more question. Well, maybe one more question. I don't want to get too involved with homeowners associations personally, but I did notice you said that there'll be one homeowners association for the age qualified and standard housing. I just a commentary for someone who's lived in an HOA. I could see the standard homes being rolled by the by the age restricted with if it ever came down to HOA rules also. I don't know how it's going to be governed and all that, but
It'll certainly be outnumbered. Part of our deal with our seller for the main parcel here, the seller being Downingtown School District, we agreed that if we were to build houses here, they would be age restricted. And the idea there was that it would produce no kids for the school district. The upper left-hand corner, which was Eli Khan's property, which is Eli Khan's property, those 30 homes are not subject to that same age restriction. So we do envision them being market rate at this time. That's not set in stone. It could be also just another part of the age restricted homes.
Personally, like families, so yeah, I'm fine with kids.
Yeah.
But no, I understand the legal the contractual agreement.
Okay, so we're going to open this up now to people with party status to ask questions. I have a list of folks, couple, 2 instructions and 1 comment before we get to that. Number 1 is that this is a time to ask questions, not to make statements. So I'm going to ask that people really try and focus the way Mr. Calagreco and the board has been asking questions to elicit information for the record. The second instruction is that the questions really need to be limited to the topics that Mr. Lingo was addressing in his testimony. And obviously, if there's other issues that are going to be dealt with later, they can be dealt with other witnesses. And then my comment is, just because I call your name and ask if you have an opportunity to ask questions, you don't have to ask questions if you don't have questions. You can say no, I'm fine with the questions that were already asked. So with that, I'm gonna yeah.
I just have one housekeeping item. If everybody, the applicant, the board, the parties could do a really big favor for us, and just like I'm doing, speak into the microphone so you can hear your voice coming through the speaker, that will ensure that the live stream picks it up also. Appreciate it.
So Ms. Widener.
Numerous questions. I'm confused. You said there were 463 age-restricted homes, and there were 38 non-age restricted. Well, that equals 501 homes. Is that the number?
Yeah, sorry for the confusion you have. It's a total of 30 units on Eli Khan's property that's non-age restricted, not 38.
Okay, so it's 463 plus 30. So it's 493. Is that the final
Correct, and
figure there?
that includes the historic home to be renovated.
Okay. Thank you. The other question I had was, you said there were 127 acres of open space. When I was at the Planning Commission meeting in June, I'm curious, I thought I heard that this property was 237 or 240 acres. 38 acres were being purchased by the township, so that there would have been 138 acres set aside as open space out of a 247 acre plot. Now I'm hearing 127.5 acres of open space. Can you explain to me what's happened here?
Yep, and I can't explain the other acres that you mentioned, but I can tell you that 127.5 acres of open space is what's part of this plan. That does include the area that's going to be conserved. And it does include both the Downingtown School District properties as well as the property that we're purchasing from Eli Kahn's entity. Total is approximately 250 acres. I can get an exact of the whole.
All right. And how many of those acres are being purchased through the township's open space referendum tax funds?
Again, it's not necessarily being purchased. It's going to be conserved. So, and that acre, the exact acreage, when our engineer testifies, he'll have that. But it's essentially this area that's just south of the home that we're renovating on the north side of the property near the circle. And it goes down to the amphitheater area, and then it includes this area to the left, which is essentially a creek.
Okay. And the last question I had was on the natatorium. Who is going to be operating the natatorium? Who is going to be funding the natatorium? And who will own the deed to the natatorium?
Good question. My entity will donate that land to Phil Aquatics. Phil Aquatics is an organization that will be speaking after me, and they'll be able to talk about how they're going to operate it and fund it and those questions.
And it has expanded from 74,000 square feet to 78,000 square feet since the Planning Commission meeting?
No.
You said it was 78,000 square foot aquatic center.
Thank you for correcting me. It's 74,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Angles?
A question of curiosity, what's the difference between the gray and the green on this diagram?
Yeah, the green is more riparian areas. Not necessarily all of it. There's a couple different shades of green there.
Just assume I'm a fifth grader.
Yeah.
Riparian.
So riparian areas would be stream beds or adjacent wetlands or
wetlands.
Yeah, not necessarily all wetlands, but there's a couple different shades of the green here. And our engineer, Rick Stratton from Chester Valley, will be able to better explain kind of all the geology of the property.
Okay. Let's just speak about the green areas. Does that mean that, like you talk about the conserved areas or the open space areas, does that mean it will be untouched, or it may be touched but kept as green space? And how do you distinguish between what will be touched? In particular, I'm thinking about all of the trees that are at the top part of the property. How much of those trees will be left?
Yep. Rick Stratton will be able to explain the limited disturbance here. It's our intention to touch as few trees as possible. That in the upper right-hand corner, upper left-hand corner, those trees along the buffer, we won't really have any reason to touch. There's also, on the upper left-hand corner, there's essentially trees, and then there is a kind of a creek or wetlands area. So between the creek and to the north of that, those trees, we won't be on that side of the property at all. I will say that where the kind of Pickering Creek comes through, even along the creek, we're going to be touching, because we're going to be working with French and Pickering Creek and the EAC to rid it of invasives. And with the plantings that are going in there, we want them to be plantings that the deer aren't necessarily going to eat the first day. And then all of the area where there's soybeans now planted, the idea would be for that to be more of a fallow, and that's something that the French and Pickering Creek folks could better explain, that more like a meadow. But we'll be planting that, and it'll take 4 or 5 growing seasons for that to be in full bloom.
And you said that the HOA will be responsible for taking care of the open space as well, or just?
That's correct. All of the open space.
And that will be in the HOA document that you submit as?
That's correct.
Okay, so once again, as far as the trees are concerned, if, you know, sometimes there are invasive pests or things, if that happens to come through Uwchlan County, that HOA will be responsible for protecting that area.
They'll be responsible for the land. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
They'll be the owners of that land.
Okay. And this is a point of order. Is this an appropriate forum to talk about, like you talked about the difference in the finances between the by right plan and the PRD? Can we ask questions? When would be the correct time to ask questions about other differences between the two plans?
I mean, what's before the board is this PRD plan.
Okay.
The other plan's not really before the board. It really depends on your question. I think you can ask, and I'll let you know. And it depends how far afield you're going to go and whether there's an objection. So we'll see what you have on that.
Yeah, I don't have any questions at this
Okay,
time.
great.
Okay.
Miss Matthews?
Considering that Milky Way Farm is part of an ag security district, has that been taken into consideration when you're planning the number of houses on this property?
Yes. In talking to you and your family members, we first wanted to better understand, we wanted to first show you the different plans that we were considering, and then at each iteration, we've tried to show you the progress that we've made to, because of you being an active farm. So, for instance, there is a buffer that we've agreed to with you and your family of 300 feet from the property line to the first houses. In the ordinance, generally in the township, that's only 150-foot buffer, so we've doubled that buffer. We've also agreed with you and your family to do the kind of the deer fence so that deer weren't, I think they're a problem right now traversing from this property to your property, so that would limit them from moving back and forth. And then in addition, we've agreed to kind of vegetation and plantings. We specifically removed the dog park because initially we had that near where your cows are. And I think that was something we didn't understand. And through those meetings and discussions with you and your family, we better understand that. So we eliminated it. And then we also eliminated the houses in that 300-foot buffer so that those houses aren't overlooking kind of where your cows are and where your main operations are. So we did take that into account.
And you're aware that that agricultural security district does keep people from taking nuisance lawsuits against us for smells, sounds, etc.
Yes, and from the first time that we met you, your family was the first group that we met when we put the property under agreement, and we didn't understand all of your operations.
You met with Save Lionville Station Farm first. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You did meet with us, and we said we wanted to just say industrial.
Yeah, you did, for sure. I understand that you prefer industrial over residential. That's overwhelmingly in the minority after the June 2025 meetings that we had, where we kind of asked the township, help us pick a direction here. In fairness to us, which way do people want to go? And overwhelmingly, folks wanted the 55 plus residential over the industrial. I understand that's not your preference, of course. The but we have agreed that in our homeowners association documentation, we will make it crystal clear that they're next to an active farm. It'll be disclosed, they'll be signing the disclosures, and they'll be signing receipt of the HOA documentation.
Thank you. Mr. Dwyer?
Thank you. First question is, I don't think it was addressed tonight, but is there going to be improvements to Lionville Station Road? Widening or?
Yes, Lionville Station Road will essentially be redone, pretty much the length of it in order for this project to work. And we're also, part of our discussions as the plans have evolved, we've had our traffic engineers with the township's traffic engineers do a scoping meeting with PennDOT so that when we just kind of get an agreement, have PennDOT look at the plan, see if they have any concerns. And during that meeting, PennDOT mentioned that they're going to be doing some work on a bridge on 401. So we'll make sure we kind of coordinate so that both of these areas aren't disturbed at the same time. And we'll do our best to really reduce the impact of this construction to the neighborhood.
And in reference to the aquatic center, my understanding is that it was required that we have some kind of a pool by the school district. Is that correct?
Part of my agreement, when I say mine, I mean Rockwell Downingtown LLC's agreement with Downingtown School District, the seller, was that we would provide or cause to be built a similar aquatic center like
And
this.
did it have to be as large as what's being proposed? Was there any chance it could have been more of a like a YMCA type pool that wasn't quite?
That's a really good question. And the Phil Aquatics folks are going to speak after me, so they'll be able to speak to the operation. When we left the meeting in June of 2025 and we solicited feedback from the neighbors, one of the things was the size of the natatorium was an issue and a concern. So we went back to Phil Aquatics and basically said, what is the absolute minimum that you can do to still be successful? Because that's important. We don't want this just to be built and not be successful. And that's where we reduced it down 33% to get to this current size.
And I don't know if I'm entitled to ask this, but is there a reason we chose or you chose Phil Aquatics versus some other situation?
That's a great question. There's not a lot of groups in the United States that build these. What we were overwhelmingly impressed by Stu Isaacs and his team, and they essentially won the case here. We really were impressed by them. I don't know if you were at the aquatics meeting that we had a month ago.
No.
They did just a fabulous job presenting their case and the operation and how they plan on running it. And hopefully Stu can touch on some of that this evening.
Would the school district have been happy with a different type of situation? This wasn't required by the school district to do a large natatorium, just to have a local pool that the school could use. Is that correct? I just want
Our agreement with the school district is public and it's out publicly, so anybody can look at it at any time. Our responsibility was the cause for this structure to be built.
Okay.
As far as the size of it, we want it to be functional and it needs to be able to be self-sustaining as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Siegel?
No questions at this time.
Ms. Siegel? Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin? And Mr. McLaughlin?
First, I have a housekeeping question. Where can we view the exhibits from tonight, both for the board's exhibits and the Rockwell's exhibits?
So the township exhibits, we have some copies for people with party status. Can we also post those to the website? Is that? We can put, and then you gave us a thumb drive. Can we post those as well? Is that? Okay,
Yes.
the applicant. Okay, so we'll have them posted on the website, but we also have a hard copy for you tonight if you need
Right,
it.
thank you.
And you can look at my copy of the applicant's exhibits if you need to look.
Well,
at it.
obviously I'm not gonna be able to look at it.
Well, we all just received it
I mean,
tonight.
if we have it electronically, we can all at our leisure
Right.
peruse it.
That's fine.
Thank you. It's been said several times that the township suggested that residential would be a better use of this ground. I'd like to know who from the township directed that.
So after the June 2025 meeting that we had with your planning commission, from that, the township culled all of the feedback from the residents from that meeting. So we basically, at that meeting, if you recall, we presented both the plan for the by right conditional use industrial plan and the first one of our iterations of the 55 plus plan. And following that meeting, overwhelmingly, the township residents were the ones that suggested that they preferred the residential plan over the industrial plan.
Well, of course they did. I mean, we held up the specter of this boogeyman of 50-foot warehouses. And there, there's a warehouse sitting up there, 1 million square feet. It's empty now. I'm sure you couldn't make any money building warehouses in that piece of ground. That's a comment. I apologize. How much open space would actually be accessible? When you look at that, I lived there for 40 years on this property. I would say that about half of that space that you have delineated there, that large portion is even accessible.
Yeah, I would argue that number. I'll tell you that when Rick Stratton from Chester Valley Engineers testifies, he'll give you the actual acreage. But in addition to having these 2 parking spots on either side of the conserved area, both on the north and the south side, one of the things that your planning commission recommended to us was to have more walkability throughout the community. So along the right at that area, which is about dead center north to south on the right side of the property, that sidewalk connects to a trail here. And that way from here, you can see to the right, to the left, people will be able to see the Monarch Way Station, and then they'll also be able to walk down along the property, and then it connects back over here. So all of that open space along the side here is accessible. To the northeast side of the property at that cul-de-sac, this property would be accessible, that's open space. And then again, everything in the middle that's conserved would be accessible as open space.
Oh, that top right property is all steep slope. You can see it by that browns and reds. That's steep slope. It's also old growth forest. And there's really nothing out in there to be accessible for. There's nothing there. The deer fence. Sorry, Melba. If you put that deer fence up, it's just going to drive the deer up north on other people's properties. I know what the fence is for. It's to keep people off their property. So you're enabling that by saying that. So don't say it's a deer fence. It's not a deer fence. It's a people fence. You're just insult our intelligence when you say that. Lastly, the gas. There's no gas in that property. There's a gas line on that property.
Correct, there's a gas line.
You know how many pounds of pressure is in that gas line?
I don't have that number, but we talked to the pipeline company, so we do have that number somewhere. Off the top of my head, I don't know what it is.
You're not tapping into that line. That's a Transco line from Texas to Maine, and there's no place where you're gonna get gas. You might be able to get gas on 113, but like I said, I've lived next to it for 40 years. It's on my property. You can't get gas out of it.
So we are, for Pico, that would be supplying gas to the natural gas to the community, it would not be tapping into that. That's not what I was referring to. But when we were examining industrial users, we could tap into that line to provide power to the industrial users.
You have to build a substation though to do that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it could be tapped into.
Very good. Thank you.
I know we have still a couple more people to ask questions, but I think we're pushing 2 hours, so I think we're going to take a break at this point for 10 minutes. All right, thanks. All right, thank you, everybody.
Mark's gonna,
Oh.
Bobby's gonna unmute this.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were on. I thought we. You good?
Are we good technical wise?
Okay, thank you, everybody. So before we jump back into the testimony, I understand that we have at least one additional person that is looking for party status. So is there anyone else? Well, let's deal with this one request.
Hi, I'm Joan Blatcher. I'm the Township Manager for West Pikeland. And so I just would like to have party status in that capacity.
So this is the township asking for party status?
Correct.
Okay. Any objection? No. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wasn't here when we were doing party status previously? Okay. All right, let's proceed. I've got a couple more. Sorry, we have a couple more. Mr. Chatsey?
Just one quick clarification, on the land in the middle there that's gray is deed restricted. The chunk up on the top northeast corner there, that big square there, will that have a similar deed restriction that something can't happen down the road there?
Yeah, as part of this PRD subdivision plan, this is the plan that we would be submitting. So one of the things that was important to the township here, which makes sense to us, is that they didn't want the PRD ordinance to be approved without an accompanying plan. So this would be the accompanying plan that would go with this overlay ordinance.
And that can't, once approved, that can't change.
If it changed, it would have to go back through the plan. Now, as far as the ownership of that will be, as this community is built out, all of that open space will be deeded to the homeowners association. So I don't know of a situation where a homeowners association has gone back in to try to re-subdivide something.
Right.
I know that land right now is the only land on this property that's zoned residential. It's zoned essentially rural residential rather than
that's
industrial.
there.
It is correct.
Okay. So potentially something could happen there.
No.
Okay. All right. And then the other question was, I guess it'd be at a later meeting here that we'd be discussing what improvements are going to happen to Lionville Station Road, especially the intersection at the bottom.
Yep. So that'll be our traffic engineer will be able to talk to that, as well as maybe to a lesser degree, Chester Valley engineers will talk to that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Fratello?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Better? Okay. Just some points of clarification. Ms. Widener asked about the open space fund for that section. Not very clear to me. Can you kind of elaborate on whether that was used, the open space fund was used?
Yes. So in our discussions with the township, we reached essentially a verbal agreement, and we have submitted a subsequent purchase agreement. It's essentially like I don't know, purchase agreement is probably not the right word. It's a easement area that we're creating this open space through the conservatorship of the French and Pike Creek Trust, so that this area essentially would not be developed, and we removed all housing from that area, and the township will be contributing towards that. We were unable to get a corresponding discount from the seller for not being able to build in that area, and resulting from the June 2025 Planning Commission meeting, the township residents wanted to use some of that open space fund to effectively buy down density.
Okay, thank you. Can you explain why there's a mix of 55 plus and non-55 plus in the top right-hand corner?
Yep.
And number of
The top left-hand corner, the part of the property that we're purchasing from Eli Kahn is not subject to our agreement with Downingtown School District. So the agreement with Downingtown School District, that is a public document, is that the community would be active adult. We're not saying that the 30 homes along Haywood Drive extension will or won't be age restricted. We're saying that at this point in this PRD ordinance, we're saying that they're not age restricted. We may, in the future, as this is moving through further iterations, deed restrict that. It's just been undecided, and for the purpose of our submission now, that is not age restricted land for those 30 lots.
Is there a advantage one way or the other for Rockwell or for the community?
Not necessarily.
Can people traverse north to south on the, what's it called, the farm side, the Milky Way farm side,
Can they walk here?
all the way up and down?
Yes. So there's a trail in about the middle of the property that connects to the sidewalk, and that little you can see a little radius of the trail that works its way over to here. That goes down along here, and this is something the Planning Commission wanted. They wanted more access into the open space, so that all that open space there will be accessed that way, and then up here is kind of where another public access.
Can they traverse the butterfly thing?
They cannot walk across that. No.
And then when they're going down, it's tough. I'm not good with the scale. Are they walking past people having barbecues, or is there like some space there?
So there's there's a road here, and then this is the side of homes here. So you're not necessarily in the backyard. This trail is there's a 300-foot buffer here between Milky Way Farms and the houses, and the trail is in that buffer area.
Thank you. You've accommodated Milky Way Farms by doubling, I think you said, the buffer. Can you just describe how that affected the overall allocation of open space for the rest of the community, please?
Well, it effectively, we clustered the homes closer together. So it's part of the open space, and it's accessible to the public via these trails. So we would have probably spread the community out a little bit more had it not been that. One of the things that we needed to do that is in our PRD ordinance here is some of the radii of these turns are less than what is in a typical code, and Chester Valley engineers will be able to discuss that. But the reason for that, again, we have an active adult community here, so there's not as many cars zipping through it for the longer radiuses, but also that enabled us to provide bigger buffers and to significantly reduce the impervious area.
Okay. And then, I don't think this is a traffic study. Can you describe if there's any work on that, I call it the triangle house, the intersection of Byers and Lionville Station Road? What's going on there? Is that part of will there be some remediation because that thing's screwed up now as it is?
So what Mr. Fertel is referring to is off of this property. There's a property that is privately owned that we do not own. As you go north on Lionville Station Road, it's kind of off to the left before you get to Byers, and it's essentially a triangular shaped lot. Then there's a house in the middle of that, I believe is a rental home. We have talked to the current owner of that in hopes that we could potentially purchase it and kind of, when I say clean up, I mean straighten out that intersection a little bit so that it's less confusing being a triangle. We have not been able to come to terms.
Who's the current owner?
I don't know what entity it's under. Specifically, I don't know. The Hankin Group ultimately owns the entity, and I don't know if that's the specific entity that owns that house.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Denning?
Thank you. The deer fence, can you, or no, excuse me, not the deer fence, the wildlife fence that's in the upper right. Can you give a little bit more context to what that is and what its purpose?
Totally. Bobby, would you mind going to our slide that shows the wildlife corridor? Yep, right there. So this is the backyard of our properties. You can see to the left side of this rendering, there's like a little lawn set there. On the other side of that fence, which is essentially the property line for that house, there's going to be a 175-foot open space from the back of these properties to the effectively where Mr. Empey and his neighbors own. And one of the things that the township asked was for there to be an area that wildlife could go left to right, east to west on the property. And we thought that this picket or this kind of split rail fence was a good way to demarcate that area so that these residents weren't kind of growing into that public or the open space. But this will be open space for the community, that wildlife corridor.
Is there any reason you're not continuing that on the other side of Lionville Station Farm Road as well?
Well, once the wildlife is on that side of the road, if we could switch to our rendering of the overall community where we just were. Yeah, right there, it's great. If there were wildlife here, they already can kind of traverse back and forth here. So we already have a larger buffer area kind of there.
So you're saying there's less concern of the residents encroaching, or?
Well, the houses on the back of these properties, the properties that are the furthest left, upper left corner of this plan, those properties behind them, there is, for a lot of them, effectively like a wetland area and then dense trees. So there really isn't a place for those folks that are living in these homes to go into that open space. It's more geographically protected, if that topographically protected.
Yeah. You mentioned you're not going to take down any trees you don't need to. Is there any restrictions for the homeowners association in the future to decide to do that?
So
if they decide they want a dog park or another butterfly meadow, could they take those trees down?
They would have to go through with approvals to do anything that anyone else would have to go through approvals for.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Blackburn, any questions? Any redirect? So thank you. Before we move on, I don't know if you want to do your exhibits now or we can just make sure we would identify them. Make sure I have them. I know we had A1 through A5.
Yes, those are the ones I testified to.
And then I think we didn't do A6, which is the township ordinance.
Township zoning ordinance. Right. Yeah, and I think you made that part of your exhibits as well. Agreement A7 and A8 are the two sales agreements.
Right.
Exhibit A9, Mr. Lingo testified to the property aerial. Exhibit A10, that's one of your board exhibits as well. That's the draft ordinance. Exhibit A11 is the application itself. And all we really testified to was the illustrative plan, but there's 43 sheets to that. We didn't go through each and every sheet.
We had that too.
A12 was the concept plan, which is on the screen right now. A13, the elevations of the single family detached. A14, elevations of the proposed semi-detached. A15, the rendering of the open space. A16 is the amphitheater concept, which we saw. A17, elevation of Lee Phipps house. A18, elevation of John Phipps house. A19, energy conservation statement. A20, written statement of public interest. These are all documents that Mr. Lingo testified to. And I think that's about.
Yeah, I think that's.
Oh, and A23, I did reference the Downingtown Area School District letter confirming availability of overflow parking.
Would you like to have those entered?
I would.
Is there any objection to having the board accept those exhibits from the parties? All right, then we will accept those.
Thank you. Next witness?
Yes, please.
Okay, my next witness will be Michael Morgan.
I do. Morgan, M-O-R-G-A-N, Michael Morgan.
Mr. Morgan, well, you've already stated your name for the record. You beat me to the punch. Are you here this evening on behalf of Phil Aquatics?
Yes, I serve as the chair of the board of directors of Phil Aquatics.
And what is Phil Aquatics?
Phil Aquatics is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 2023, headquartered in Chester County, with a mission to bring an aquatic center to this area. Our vision is to enrich lives through a community-based, state-of-the-art, multi-pool aquatic center that promotes health, wellness, education, recreation, rehabilitation, and competition. We want to create a place where individuals of all ages and abilities have access to opportunities that help them live healthier, safer, and more connected lives. The organization currently has a 9-member board of directors.
And you are the chair.
Who are volunteers, and I serve as chair, correct?
And just for those in the audience who may not be familiar, a 501c3 organization is otherwise known as a not-for-profit organization, correct?
It's an IRS designation, yes.
Correct. We've interchangeably used the description aquatic center, natatorium. They're both the same thing, correct, for purposes of the testimony that the board has been listening to?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what is an aquatic center / natatorium?
Well, an aquatic center is a facility that provides opportunities for all water-based sports, such as competitive and recreational swimming, diving, water polo, artistic swimming, which is formerly known as synchronized swimming, Special Olympics, aquatic fitness and physical therapy, swim lessons and life-saving training and certification programs, and health and wellness programs for individuals of all ages, abilities, and needs.
And how did your organization, Phil Aquatics, become involved with Greg Lingo's organization, Rockwell?
Yes, Rockwell attended a Phil Aquatics information session presentation in November of 2024, and the Downingtown Area School District Agreement of Sale with Rockwell includes a natatorium. Our mission, vision, and values are in strategic and operational alignment for a business, education, government, nonprofit, community partnership that provides opportunity to bring an aquatic center to Chester County.
And as part of this proposed development, you've heard Mr. Lingo state that his organization will donate to Phil Aquatics 12 acres of land west of Lionville Station Road that we see up there on Exhibit A12, correct?
Yes, correct.
So in addition to forming a relationship with Mr. Lingo and his organization and identifying the potential location, what steps has Phil Aquatics taken to open this facility since its funding?
Well, we were founded.
Or since its founding, I'm sorry.
We created a 501c3 nonprofit organization. As I mentioned, we established our board of directors. We created a digital platform to promote our mission. You can check out www.philaquatics.org. And we engage advisors and ambassadors. The ambassadors are our Olympic coaches and athletes from all sports, not just swimming, that are in this area, that are agents of us, proponents of us. We then did some initial baseline fundraising, and then focused on partners, consulting with companies and individuals who have opened and operated similar facilities in the United States, which led us to our partnership with Stu Isaac, Isaac Sports Group, and they've been a big part of developing and operating dozens of aquatic centers throughout the country. With Stu's guidance, we were able to identify similar facilities throughout the United States that we visited to learn about.
Sorry, can I just ask the witness to slow down?
Oh, yeah, okay. We were able to learn about the planning, design, construction, operations, and maintenance, and some of the initial community concerns and feedback about the facilities.
And to conclude your testimony, what drew your attention to this location for this use?
Lionville Station Road and Uwchlan Township and Chester County, Pennsylvania, ideal location to fulfill our mission, our vision, our values. For a year and a half, we went around looking at different sites in Philadelphia area and found that this particular site had numerous opportunities, especially related to transportation and access, close to the turnpike, hotels, restaurants, shopping, and easy access, and fulfills a need for a local pool space in this area.
Okay, I don't have any further questions for this witness. I will suggest that there are probably many questions regarding more specifics of the operation of the facility. That'll be my next witness. I just wanted to introduce Phil Aquatics to the board.
Does the board have any questions? I'm going to run quickly through the parties. Ms. Widener, any questions for this witness? Mr. Angles? Ms. Matthews? Ms. Dwyer? Mr. or Mrs. Siegel? Mr. Martin? Mr. McLaughlin? Mr. Chadsey? Mr. Fratello? And Mr. Denny? And Ms. Blatcher?
You had made some reference to the easy access to the turnpike and some competitions. What is the anticipated volume of outside the area traffic that you think that the natatorium will be bringing in?
Our consultant, Stu Isaac, will be able to speak. He's been working with the township for the traffic studies,
So that's
et
the next
cetera.
meeting?
So next speaker.
Next witness.
Next witness, yeah.
I'll talk to him then. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Stuart Isaac.
I do. First name is Stu, S-T-U. Last name Isaac, I-S-A-A-C.
Mr. Isaac, what is your business address?
My business address is 3419 Wagner Woods Court, Ann Arbor, Michigan, 48103.
And you flew in here tonight to provide testimony for the board at this hearing?
Yes, I did.
All right. Are you the owner of the Isaac Sports Group?
Yes, I am, sole owner.
And was the Isaac Sports Group retained by Phil Aquatics as a consultant for the development of the aquatic center or the natatorium that you've heard about here this evening?
Yes.
Okay. And how has your company helped Phil Aquatics in that process? What general services have you provided to date?
We walked through really a progression that you would walk through in development of an aquatic center. So for most people, you would think of it as a feasibility study, but it involved market research, needs analysis, opportunities analysis, a lot of research, not only in the local market, but in the regional market, and identifying comparable facilities, aquatic facilities around the country that would be relevant to this development. So then we always talk about program precedes design. So we developed a program model that met the school district's needs within the Rockwell contract. And then we turned the program model into what are the facilities we need to support those programs. That then led to the management analysis, what it would take to staff, what the operational business plan would look like, what the operating budget would look like. And that was really progressing to the point we're at right now, which is looking ahead to the next steps.
I take it this isn't your first rodeo in consulting how to build an auditorium and how to operate an auditorium?
Correct. I came from a background in aquatics all my life and then worked for 26 years in the industry as an executive at Speedo Swimwear. So I come at it from the management and the business side of aquatics, but then we brought in my sub-consultants, which all have a management background of managing aquatic facilities. We formed the group in 2009. So we have worked on projects throughout the US, probably 30 different states of all different sizes, as well as several in Canada.
I'm going to ask, can you guys punch up Exhibit A20, which is the, do we have that on the slide? I'm sorry, A21. Can you describe what we're looking at, Stu?
This is an aquatic center, actually in Elkhart, Indiana, which we worked on, and we've also taken the Phil Aquatics team there to visit. This is very similar in the design to what's planned in the current design for Phil Aquatics. It is an aquatic center that has multiple competitive flexibility. This is a 50-meter, what we call a stretch 50-meter, but also behind the diving boards is a community pool, there's a therapy pool, there's significant meeting space. So this is a great example in terms of community partnership, but a project that was developed privately. So this really is a great parallel to what we're looking at here in Phil Aquatics.
Okay, so that's one pool. What else would go on inside this 74,000 square foot building?
Most people will look at this facility and think a 50-meter pool like this is all just competitive training. There's a lot of recreation that goes on in this pool too, whether it's scuba, whether it's kayak classes, whether it's a lot of recreational features we can add to it. But also in this aquatic center is what we call a warm water teaching or community pool, where we teach, we do aquatic fitness, we do a lot of recreation and leisure activities. There's a dedicated swim lesson pool.
Let's hold on for a minute because I think we have another exhibit A22, which may speak to what you've just talked about. There you go.
This is actually the therapy and rehab pool. Different examples of what these can look like. We have already started some conversations with healthcare providers, and most of the facilities we work with now around the country have healthcare partners because therapy and rehab is such an important part of this. We have another one of our witnesses here from Phil Aquatics that really is an expert in these areas that we can talk to at some point as questions come up. I always like to add as a dog lover, the dog therapy in the lower right-hand corner. I don't think that might fit into this model since we got rid of the dog park, but I wanted to give you a sense that this kind of pool is therapeutic, but it also can have programming. It can have senior fitness. It can have a lot of different functions. The other body of water I mentioned, the swim lesson pool, that is specifically purpose-built to be the ideal aquatic environment in terms of water temperature, depth, staging areas, in-water benches to maximize the opportunities for swim lessons in this market, which we've identified as a real need in the market and an opportunity for the community.
So I think maybe there's a misconception that this facility would only be used by the Downingtown Area School District for its swim meets and events and training, but what you've just described is a use that goes well beyond just the school district purposes.
Correct. And I'm going to go back to a question that was brought up earlier that someone asked, well, what does a school district really need? Have they specified the size? In the agreement, the sales agreement between the school district and Rockwell is specified an 8-lane 50-meter pool, which is much bigger than any of the YMCA's in the area, except for a small training 50-meter at Upper Mainline Y. So they have really focused on the competitive side. But what they didn't focus on was really what could be used for the community, that warm water, that therapy, the swim lessons, community, leisure, recreation. And to have an aquatic center that is financially viable and meets not only the needs, but the opportunities that can be offered cannot be done in just that single body of water. The school district had a very narrow view of that. And we've talked a lot about all the different uses the school district could put the aquatic center through. So that's why really the expansion of this, what grew to 74,000 was really all of the other community and wellness, fitness, and swim lesson pools and opportunities. These are great facilities for training with our first responders and certifications and a lot of different community-based activities.
And will the facility be open to members of the community? And by the community, I mean not just the houses that we're talking about tonight, but I just mean the people that live in the township.
Well, you know, somebody talked about the YMCA model, which of course is a membership model. The Phil Aquatics Aquatic Center will have memberships, but you don't have to be a member to use it. We will have daily passes that anybody can drop in and use it. We have talked about, and we mentioned this in our public aquatic center meeting, that we would be looking at user benefits for residents of Uwchlan Township, including discount membership, discount drop-in fees, as well as discounted program fees, swim lesson fees, as well as priority registration. If any of you have ever tried to sign up a child for swim lessons, and if you don't get in at 12:01 the day those open up, you end up on the wait list. We would look at opportunities for the township for residents to have the first opportunity to sign up. So priority registration before it's opened up to non-residents. These are the kind of things we find a lot of facilities around the country use as part of their good neighbor policies with their community.
Now, based on your experience with other facilities of this size, the Do you believe that the 520 parking spaces provided for the natatorium use would be sufficient?
Absolutely. What the 500 spaces really accommodate all the spaces we need for daily use, as well as what has been described in this group as special events. We describe those as maximum capacity events. Those are events that use all 1,000 seats, spectator seats, and the maximum number of competitors or participants. We find that on a rare occasion, that may go over the 520 mark by 20 or 30 spaces. So that is where the opportunity for shared use overflow parking with the school district would come into play.
And you're aware that the ordinance limits those special events to 4 weekends a year, correct?
Correct. The major capacity events, 4 of those weekend events per year.
And would it, in your opinion, now, would it be safe to say for the other 48 weekends of the year or weeks of the year, the facility is actually overparked?
Correct.
Okay. The Exhibit A24 is a special event traffic management plan dated December 1, 2025 that your office prepared with Phil Aquatics that details a conceptual plan to manage traffic and parking. Now, that's just a conceptual plan. That has not been blessed or endorsed by the township or the folks that eventually would have to endorse that if this operation were approved, if this plan were approved, correct?
Correct. And it really applies almost entirely to those maximum capacity events where we deal with overflow and we have management of the parking and the traffic. One of the real key elements of the success and the community benefits of this aquatic center is that when we host events, there is still those other pools you saw can be used by the public. So when there's an event on a weekend, what am I going to do? My kids can't have their swim lessons? We can't swim laps? No, this is an opportunity to still use what we call concurrent programming. How that relates to parking is we've identified in our parking analysis that contributed to the overall parking and traffic analysis that we've set aside dedicated in-close parking for daily users, even when we're having events, maximum events. So our users, our members, our swim lesson kids can always, and the people using therapy and rehab with ADA spaces will always have close-in dedicated parking. And our management plan talked about how we would control that, how we would staff that, how we would make sure that we can manage that.
Now, you're aware that the draft ordinance that the township is considering provides that or requires that this special event traffic management plan must be submitted to the township for approval at least 30 days prior to that event occurring, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your group would be preparing that or assist in preparing that management.
Correct. Assist in preparing it. Yeah. Ultimately, it will be the management of the facility, which we can talk about later, but that's, yes.
Okay. Let's talk about employment. I mean, how many folks would work at the natatorium?
The natatorium will have a wide range of employees. We anticipate 5 to 6, not including the construction, the 80 to 100.
Yeah, I'm not talking about construction.
When we look at operations, probably 5 to 6 full-time salaried management employees, another 5 or 6 full-time hourly employees. But we would have anywhere from 90 to 140 part-time hourly employees ranging in hourly, the weekly hourly from 8 to 29 hours. What is important about this is that this is where our partnership with the school district, with the active aging community, we find that those jobs are often filled by a wide range of people. Certainly we've got seasonal, we've got high school kids working summer jobs as a lifeguard, but we've got college kids coming back to work that. But we've also have a lot in the trends in aquatics now. A lot of older active adults are actually working in facilities like this. We see some at the local Ys, for example. So overall, when we take a look at the full impact in leading up to opening in the first 5 years of operation, The business plan projects approximately $9.8 million in salary and wages over the first 5 years of operation.
And it's my understanding that in conjunction with operating this facility, you would be reaching out and partnering with local community groups. You mentioned EMS services. We'll talk a little bit about therapeutic services in just a minute, but can you elaborate on that just a bit? What type of community services you would provide that you have provided in other areas?
We've had a lot of talk about EMS and fire and police here. I'll lump them under first responders. They're always looking at training, a lot of aquatic training, water safety training that they can't get elsewhere. We've always found in the facilities we work with that, everybody says, well, yeah, we can rent them space to train. No, we don't want to do that. This is something we would provide because we want a healthy partnership with those groups because they can be partners in training and offering AED and first aid courses, things like this. When we talk about community organizations, you mentioned community service. When we think about the relationship with the school district or Boys and Girls Club or other organizations, we're talking about internships. All of the high school kids in the Downingtown area school district have requirements for community service. What a great way to have community service programs in the aquatic center that could be dealing with kids or special needs or seniors. So there's a lot of opportunities beyond just the paid hourly wages. We want interns, we want community service, we want life skills teaching, and the aquatic center will be set up to be training in the aquatic certifications, lifeguards, swim instructors as part of that program.
I think a concern was raised earlier by one of the supervisors about not wanting to have the facility underutilized. Can you explain, is it a 24/7 operation? What are the typical hours of operation? Is it 365 days a year, typically?
It is 365 days a year. We might take Christmas off, might take a few holidays. We'll give the lifeguards a break. But we'll be opening about 5:30 to 6 a.m., working till 9 to 10, depending on the load. That is actually shorter working hours than the Lionville Family YMCA or the Lifetime Fitness in King of Prussia. So we're kind of aligned, but just a little less than that. When the question came up from, I think, Supervisor Moody about underutilization, there was a lot of focus on, 4 of these special events, the max capacity. We have events that really, when we get down to all the smaller events, the high school dual meets, the water polo games, things like this, we have events 19 to 20 weekends a year. We probably have 65 to 85 event days, but some of those might be a 2-hour high school meet. The opportunities, though, we know from demand in the market in terms of clubs that want to train, in terms of the demand for swimming lessons, the demand for physical therapy, rehab, we don't think we're going to have a problem in underutilization at all because there's such a pent-up demand in the market and wait lists for swim lessons, all those opportunities. So one of the things we don't talk about because it's really in the details, we have 1,000 seats. We're going to use all 1,000 seats 4 weekends a year. We like to make 400 of those seats retractable so that can be opened up into functional space so that we can have other programming, camp programs, things like this. We did that with another facility in the country that seated 980 and 450 were collapsible. So there's a lot of ways we build flexibly into this so that we really offer community access when we're having events, when we're not having events, and really maximizing the utilization of this pool. If we don't maximize it, it won't be financially sustainable. And that's what we're really, part of our big job as a consultant is to bring those kind of examples of financial sustainability to the market.
I don't have any further questions for this witness.
Board have any questions?
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, just one question. You've been doing your market analysis. You're saying that obviously you've looked at other communities that had this similar type of aquatic center. Were there communities similar to ours that have YMCAs, that have universities nearby? Many of our communities have their own clubhouses with pools. So it certainly sounds wonderful But I'm wondering though, because this is a community that has a lot of access already
Mhm.
built into it, are the communities in which you looked at similarly situated?
Great question. When we started working with Phil Aquatics, they had already identified a lot of aspirational facilities. We then worked with them, agreed with them, offered a lot more options, facilities we worked with in a wide range of communities. So as part of the work we've done with Phil Aquatics and work they've done on their own, they visited probably 12 different aquatic facilities around the country in large cities, right in the whole Greensboro, North Carolina sports complex where they have all kinds of tournaments and events, Fort Lauderdale, but also Richmond, Virginia, Elkhart, Indiana. A lot of opportunities there. We visited with them quite a few facilities. And what I think characterized these facility visits, when you often go to a facility, you say, what worked, what didn't work, what would you do differently, and you talk to the people that manage it. When we went on these tours, we talked to the people that helped make it happen, that raised the funds, that were right there from the beginning. And that's where I think Phil Aquatics has really drawn from that and learned a lot to help shape their overall perspective on what they've learned from those other facilities. And it is really a wide range of different communities. I know because we just opened a pool July 1st in the San Juan Islands with a population of 3,200, and you can only get there by ferry. So we've worked on a wide range of different type communities and a lot of examples that work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple questions. I'm curious because I know that you mentioned you visited a lot of facilities and you yourself have been involved in the development and implication of several of these projects. Have you seen the shuttle map for off-site parking used successfully at other facilities?
Yes, and in many of those facilities, there is a much higher load. In other words, their overflow parking might have been 200. So they had a whole quantum leap in what their needs are. Our overflow, when we went from 1,500 seats back to the January update down to 1,000 seats, reduced our seating by 33%. Our overflow dropped to 20 to 30 max, even in the best case scenarios of maximum. So that's a very manageable program.
And then just a question that might be better suited for our township consultants due to their familiarity with what's in our township, but I think it's kind of hard looking at the pictures to kind of envision the size and shape of the facility in the space that we're looking at on the parcel. The 50-meter pool is pretty big. And so I'm wondering if you have any local comparisons to either facilities that are not pools, but just building size overall that might be around the 74,000 foot comparison, as well as the 520 parking spot parking lots.
You know, you're right. There are really no comparable aquatic facilities in this market. We'd have to go quite a ways away. A 50-meter pool can fit inside on the floor of your hockey rink, for example. To give you an idea, it's about 12,500. It's 164 feet by 75 feet, where a hockey rink is, an NHL rink is 200 feet long by 85 feet wide. Give you an idea how that fits in. So when we talk about the parking spaces, we have much larger parking capacity at high schools and, you know, even your local schools, particularly the high schools, not so much the middle schools where the kids aren't driving. But yeah, so a YMCA, like a Lifetime Fitness, that's probably 130,000 square feet. I think there's a Lifetime in King of Prussia. So then we look at a YMCA, most YMCAs are in that 80,000 to 90,000, 80 to 85,000 square feet. I don't know what Lionville Family Y is exactly. I visited and I'm guessing in the 80,000 range. Does that help?
It does, just for the purpose of visualization,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's been a lot of questions around the size of the facility, and it's hard to look at a picture of a pool and envision the footprint
Yeah.
that it takes on the parcel, as well as the
Yeah,
breadth.
when we look at a parcel with 270 some acres or whatever the two, you know, that 74,000 square feet is about 1.8 acres. So that gives you an idea just compared to the overall site.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Get close to the microphone. I got yelled at earlier. Yeah, so I'm not someone who's had kids or participated in swimming. So, maybe just on the impacts of on positive and negative impacts of these events, special events. I mean, for one of your 4 special events, like how far from a regional perspective are you drawing in participants? Are they staying in hotels? Are they, is this like a commute or something like that?
As part of our feasibility study, we conducted an economic impact analysis based on heads and beds. So we haven't really gone further because the next step to really fine tune that is to have the site locked down. But to give you an example, there'll be some meets that really drive local that we may only have 20% staying overnight using hotels. There'll be some higher level competitions that may draw from all of the Northeast, and we may find that we've got 80% staying. What we've done is identify a whole series of events ranging from the max capacity events all the way down to high school dual meets where you have nobody staying overnight, and kind of anticipate what would be a regional and local event model. And we've confirmed this and vetted it with USA Swimming, Middle Atlantic Swimming, which is the local governing body for USA Swimming in the Middle Atlantic area, and also our experience in other event facilities. So there's a wide range, but we're looking at, there will be a lot of our competitors are young. The majority are age groupers, 14 and under. So we have families staying, but a lot of it will be drawing locally. So we'll have some events that draw regionally with a lot of hotels, but a lot of it is, particularly the smaller events, is driven locally.
Anything else on the board?
Not at this time.
Ms. Widener?
Yeah, one question. Are you aware that the Uwchlan Township Planning Commission recommended the removal of the natatorium from this project? And if so, why are you continuing with it?
I am aware of that. That's a great question for Mr. Lingo.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
No, that we're continuing it with it because ultimately, just like with the rest of the ordinance, it's up to the board. The Planning Commission's advisory, but the board ultimately makes the decision as to what this plan will or will not include. So we thought it was appropriate to put this matter before the Board of Supervisors. If they want a natatorium, that's fine. If the decision is no natatorium, then it's removed from the plan.
Okay, thank you. On your website, it says 550,500 visitors and users annually by year 3, inclusive of 110,000 event attendees a year, calculated based on total separate visits rather than total unique visits. My question is that accurate? 500,000 people by year 3 would be coming into this facility in and out during the year. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. And that's based on a lot of statistics from comparable facilities. But let me stress that when you're thinking about that, that's people that come in and out of the pool. There are kids on some teams that come in the morning and come back for a practice in the afternoon, and they do that 300 days a year. So each one of those entries is a visit. Much like people come to an event, one of our weekend events, and they're coming for Saturday morning session, Saturday evening session, Sunday morning, Sunday evening. So each one of those is a visit. Every time, a kid comes to a swim lesson, and they've got 8 swim lessons in the course of 4 weeks, each one of those times they come for a lesson is a visit. So every lap swimmer that this lap swimmer may come in some laps 4 days a week, 50 weeks a year. Well, those are all individual visits. So that's how the number gets up. And that's why we stress those are not unique users.
So getting back to Mr. Morgan's statement, if 500,000 people are coming to this in and out by year 3, how is Lionville Station Road considered ideal for this facility?
That is a question that I will defer to the traffic people. They have those numbers analysis that we provided, breaking down by time of day, when people are coming in to use the pool, the traffic. And they also have all the traffic improvements that Mr. Lingo referenced earlier that will be talked about more when the traffic people come up, because they've taken into account how to mitigate that increase and stay within the regulations of how not to have any net increase in traffic delays and wait times.
But briefly, okay, thank you. Another question is, briefly, you talked about the profile of the visitors that would come to this facility, including many who would come in for state and national meets, come in for these events, use our roads, and then leave virtually, right? Is that what I heard you say?
I don't think I mentioned national events. This facility, when we downsized it, really it'll draw some small national events and maybe water polo or artistic swimming, but it's not going to draw a national championship in swimming or anything like that. So yes, there are national championships, but those are the small ones. What it would be is a better way to think of that is that still the vast majority of users are local, but we do have some that are staying overnight. And so they're spending money in the community, they're generating tax revenue and things. So it's kind of what is that sweet spot between how we service the community for these events and the programs. The actual community use programs will really be driven locally. That's why a facility like this, you've got the 50-meter pool, you've got the event capabilities, but those other 3 bodies of water are really focused on the local community and the neighborhoods to be a good, as I said earlier, a good neighbor. So there are a lot of people that will come in for special events from outside the area, but most of the community programming is driven locally.
Okay, because your website, just to correct, says well suited to host national and regional level swim meets.
Mm-hmm. There are, in USA Swimming, there are 24 different events that they classify as national because they're part of the national program. Many of those are only a zone meet or a regional meet, and there may be 8 of them around the country. So when I talk about a national championship, that is where you have the entire country coming to this. So that is kind of a semantic issue with how USA Swimming defines this and how we, Phil Aquatics, use that on the website.
Okay, and my last question is, do you really feel that this is appropriate? You said you've looked at the area, but you've never really seen anything like this around here or that you've built around here. Do you feel that this is an appropriate use in this already densely developed area of Uwchlan Township?
Absolutely. I'm not unfamiliar with this area. When I was swimming in college, I swam in this area, trained in this area. I spent several years running the aquatic program at a local country club, not in Uwchlan Township, but in the area. And what we find when we talk to all the different community aquatic stakeholders, they all talk about the need for this kind of facility because it doesn't exist. And having spent time in the Philadelphia area and particularly Chester County, Uwchlan Township, I've not spent a lot of time in Uwchlan Township, but I've certainly been here and toured the site, toured the neighborhoods, tried to understand the community in conjunction with Phil Aquatics. We really find that for all that's happening in this area, this is a significant gap in recreation community opportunities in aquatics, both regionally and locally in this area. So I think there's a huge need and a huge opportunity. And as was mentioned earlier by Mr. Morgan, the chairman, I think this is a great facility because it really works well synergistically with the residential community on the site, because that active aging demographic really uses aquatics, and the ability to offer benefits to Uwchlan Township residents. I think it makes a great opportunity to make this work together and still maintain the open space and have the aquatic center connect to that open space.
Thank you.
Mr. Angles?
You'll have to forgive me because I'm going to be scrolling on my phone. I'm on the Phil Aquatics frequently asked question list. I did attend the information session that was held here previously, and that was pretty comprehensive as far as how far beyond just competitive swimming the opportunities are for our community. But I would like to highlight. Can I read a couple of sentences from their website? It's just.
Is there a question associated?
There is a question,
okay.
But it needs context. The Aquatic Center, the Phil Aquatics is dedicated to building the Aquatic Center in Chester County to serve both the local community and the greater Philadelphia region. Okay. Programs offered. Why do we need another pool in Chester County and the Philadelphia area? Because it offers unparalleled opportunities as a comprehensive resource for Chester County and southeastern Pennsylvania. So when I read those things, there's a scope here. And so ultimately, my question comes down to right here, has to do with the school districts. How will the Aquatic Center support local school districts, plural? And so my question is, since this is a requirement of DASD to have a 50-meter pool, and then you're adding other things that will be great for our community, how many other school districts will be employing the Aquatic Center as a functional base of operations, just like DASD?
Very good question.
Thank you.
And I'll add a little context, and Mike, you may offer some thoughts on this. When you look at the website, Phil Aquatics has been very careful with advice from Mr. Lingo and Rockwell to not really talk about the specific location. So there are a lot of things like that statement about school districts and things really are phrased in a generic way, okay, because the site's not locked down. We have really not engaged directly with the school district, Downingtown Area School District, because we're really waiting for some of this all to flesh out in the site. We know that there are a lot of opportunities and the opportunity to have priority access time. This would have to be discussed when Phil Aquatics and it connects with the school district. Right now, all the discussions and dialogue has been between Rockwell and the school district because of the sales agreement. Very good point. If they have priority and we have some leftover lanes, and Great Valley School District wants to use some lanes and rent them, and we've got them, yeah, probably, but they wouldn't have that priority. So these are all things to be worked out that really are site specific as we layer into this.
Downingtown is not using the facility at a given time. It could be open to another school district, another two, another three, or whatever, that will keep that facility full.
Full and financially viable. And if that school district wants to use the time from 5:30 to 7:30 in the morning or 8 to 10 at night, like a lot of the hockey teams, that's great. So again, there are opportunities. To go back to a question from Supervisor Moody, the demand is there, and we have done a very detailed, what we call a schedule matrix, to take all the potential opportunities, all the program, all the stakeholders, and align it with the design elements and lay out how we can fit all this together in the Aquatic Center with concurrent programming. So when we're having events, we still have lap swim. Even when a team's training, we're still teaching lessons and all the things. So it kind of all, it's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
But
But if there's one more piece to that puzzle, are you accounting for how to put all of this together such that it's not a burden for this community? And if that's for the traffic consultants or some other consultant, that's fine.
Well,
That's another puzzle.
I would ask how you're defining burden to the community. You mentioned traffic. Really no financial burden to the community because this is all self-funded. So I didn't know quite what you were asking in terms of what you're thinking in terms of burden to the community.
Generically, when the immediate world is descending upon our little place in this world, it could become burdensome theoretically.
All of the user load calculations that affected parking and traffic that we put together for the traffic consultant all were based on maximum usage. So we say by year 3, we've got people using the pool and all the different water spaces, from morning to evening. So what we've factored in that full maximum use.
Okay. And the last question that comes from your website, are there any plans for opportunities for future expansion? Does Phil Aquatics consider coming back in 3 or 4 years and saying, hey, we'd like to make it bigger, whatever?
The one thing that's come up as a potential, but all that would have to go through the whole planning process and the whole, yes. It was not really thinking about expansion from the competitive side. It was expansion, would there be an opportunity for an outdoor pool, recreational pool that might meet other community needs that don't exist right now, facilities. So it's
Needs of the greater Philadelphia region?
no, I'm thinking of, a local neighborhood type pool, for example. So again, that is well down the road. We have to be financially viable. We've looked at some of the facilities we visited and how they added facilities like that. It may be that there's so much use in the therapy and rehab that there's an opportunity for a small medical or sports medicine clinic catering to the active adult aging and servicing a gap in that healthcare market in this township. Again, all down the road, but clearly we know the process it would go through.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Matthews?
I have several questions. The first question is for you. Did you decide to form this nonprofit before or after Downingtown School District said they needed a swim center?
Oh, before. We formed in 2023 and made the connection with Rockwell in November of 24. At that time, that's when we learned about this agreement of sale they have with Downingtown Area School District for a 50-meter, 8-lane aquatic center, a natatorium, as it's named in the contract. So we had already come together as a group of volunteers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Phil Aquatics was formed in 2023. We made connection with Rockwell in November of 2024. So we existed before, and then the opportunity came our way as they attended whatever information sessions. And with that came the contract, the agreement of sale with Downingtown Area School District for the 8-lane, 50-meter aquatic center, or natatorium as it's named in the contract.
I'll add one thing to that. When he talks about 2023, that's when really the not-for-profit 501c3 was formed. They were a functioning organization before that, and they retained our services probably in 2022. So there's been a lot of leading up to this and taking a look at a lot of the opportunities and all part of the feasibility study early on.
If you have approximately 140 employees or people working there, volunteers, that's going to take out 140 parking spaces from the 500 that you have dedicated.
That's 140 over the course of a year. We've factored in parking for staff. That might mean we only have 20 of those people at any given time at the pool. Again, those are anywhere from 8 to 29 hours, kind of meeting the state employment requirements for part-time workers. So that is the different, that many, those are unique individuals that may have a job there. Some may just be working for 6 weeks in the summer. Those are not all those people there at any given time. Nowhere near that many. You know, we might be needing 6 swim instructors and 14 lifeguards for the pool and 2 front desk staff at any given time of the part-timers. So that is not 140 people there every single day. We do have parking, and what we submitted to the traffic and parking planners did specifically designate staff parking in that model.
Recently, I had family members come in from out of town, and they chose to stay in a hotel until they discovered on Saturday night there was only one hotel room available in this Lionville area. It was $350 for the night. They slept with us. I don't think there's enough hotel room for all the people to participate.
Part of the economic impact analysis does deal with the hotel inventory in the local market. We will be working with the local Convention and Visitors Bureau and sports commissions once we have a site pinned down to really do that analysis. I know because I've been staying in this area just off Route 100 whenever I come to visit. So I've been staying at different hotels to kind of understand what that market looks like. And I'm paying a lot less than $350 a night.
Excuse me, if you're going to have a conversation, please step out in the vestibule.
Will this facility obtain a liquor license and serve alcoholic beverages at it?
That is not currently in the plan at all.
But it might be.
I can't imagine why it would be there. You know, we see it often in hockey rinks and stuff. They have, you know, a bar there for their beer leagues and stuff, but I don't know any aquatic center around the country that we're looking at that has a liquor license.
Could you told me in your brochure that you passed out the informational night, the brochure you passed out said that it's 82,000 square feet. Tonight you've been saying 74,000 square feet.
That is an old document from previous plans, and I don't know for the Phil Aquatics people. Yeah, it's been 74,000 since we downsized in January.
Last month. Thank you. The next question, how high above ground level will the roof be?
Based on the current expectation of seating on a second level and the height needed for diving boards, we're not going to have a full 10-meter tower like you see in the Olympics. But we'd be in about the clearance would be 29 to 30 feet on the inside. So with a roof framework, we're up to 36 feet or so.
36 feet high will be the building.
Yeah. And again, that's back of the envelope calculations. We're going to have structural engineers that'll go with it. I doubt it. We don't see many with these kind of facilities going that high.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Dwyer, did she leave? And the Seagulls left? Mr. Martin? Mr. McLaughlin left? Mr. Chadsey? Left. Okay. Mr. Fertel left. Mr. Denny? Okay. And Ms. Blatcher. Okay. I have a follow-up question based on some of the discussion. Just wondering how this all fits together. I know we've been talking a lot about fiscal impact and different aspects of that, and then hearing that you're a 501c. How does that work with your revenue tax payments? Do you pay taxes? Is that part of the normal as a 501c3?
Yeah. property is a question. Once we finalize the site, we'll be analyzing what the impact is.
That's right. I apologize. I meant
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, yeah.
So what, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, what do you mean it's something that needs to be worked out?
There, from my experience with other facilities around the country, knowing that every county, every municipality has different rules as how they treat not-for-profits. In many cases, there's an opportunity to explore waivers based on the community good of a not-for-profit. I don't know enough about these rules, and I think that is something certainly as we pin down the opportunity to have the aquatic center in Uwchlan Township, that would be one of our important next steps.
I don't know if the board or the staff have any follow-up on that.
Hi, Stu. Bobby Cagle. I'm the township
Bobby,
manager.
good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Thanks for being here tonight. I really have three questions. The first kind of to point to our solicitor's question and just kind of hit it head on. The question becomes if the property is deemed tax exempt, and I know in the fiscal impact study, which you're not testifying to, but my understanding is that it assumes that the facility would be tax exempt. That's a loss of revenue for the township. Would Phil Aquatics be open to a payment in lieu of taxes arrangement to be equivalent to the money that we would have received both for general fund, fire, EMS?
Again, I'll be speaking as a consultant now, and I may get a different answer from Phil Aquatics, but I think any of these kind of things would be up for discussion because we're trying to look at, as I said, being a good neighbor and the discounts we're providing for residents for discounted membership, discounted swim lessons. So we're incurring a cost too at Phil Aquatics. So there's some, accounting that may be balanced there with some kind of reciprocal agreement in terms of the kind of benefits and opportunities we're providing for the township residents. So again, I think that's certainly something that would be discussed, if we are on the site and moving forward. With anything you would add to that, or did I kick the can far enough down the road?
My second question, kind of on those same on the similar topic of benefits, our first responder agencies, I appreciate your openness to providing opportunities for them to train. Oftentimes, I know with other entities in the township, our first responder entities are more than welcome to train, but it's at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. Is Phil Aquatics open to, certainly not displacing other people, but some level of prioritization for our first responder agencies to be able to train in the water? So it's not, well, sure, you're welcome to do it at 11:30 at night after we close the doors.
Yeah, because we have good flexibility during the day, during the school year, because we don't have the youth teams. Kids aren't taking swim lessons in the middle of the school day and stuff. So there would be flexibility there. Almost every facility we've worked with, there was ample time to work people in.
I
think that's a great idea.
And I appreciate that. I would just note for the record, right now our certainly I think our EMS providers and our police department, that would be helpful for. Our fire department are all volunteers, and so we may have to work on that. My third and final question really relates to the kind of the location of the facility. And I guess a question for Phil Aquatics is, do you have a preference as to where on the facility you're located? In other words, right now you're in that southwest corner, but if you were to, if the township were to say, hey, we actually think it's better to be on the northwest corner up towards where the industrial part of the area is off of Haywood Drive, does Phil Aquatics have an opinion on that or a preference about where they're located?
I think question that would be better directed to Greg Lingo, since he's the one providing or donating the property. Greg, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, we have, in our iterations of the plan, we've moved the Phil Aquatics facility 3 times. We had it initially in the location that it is now. Then we moved it over closer to Milky Way Farms and adjacent to the Tractor Supply. Then we examined it up towards the parcel that we were purchasing from Eli, and we felt that this is the optimal location for the facility.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Okay, go ahead.
For Greg as well, sorry. Just to follow up on Mr. Kegel's question. As far as determining that that was the best decision, was that based on the infrastructure and the access to the site, or was that guided by the agreement with the Downingtown Area School District?
Infrastructure and access to the site.
And I have one additional question that might be better suited for you, though it's aquatic center related. I understand that Phil Aquatic has an agreement with Rockwell to explore this feasibility and the possibility of this facility. And I understand that it is part of a phased development cycle as far as Rockwell's order of operations when constructing the site. Is there a contingency plan, or can you talk a little bit about what would happen in the event that the funding is not secured to build the Phil Aquatic facility that we're looking at on paper? What would happen in that situation?
So no different than if any other part of the property was unable to be funded. So the home building operations or renovations to the building, our responsibility is to see this project through. So we'll be, prior to construction, we'll be posting bonds for performance. I don't know necessarily about bonds for this part of the property, but certainly for infrastructure and things like that, to see that the project is viable.
The project in reference to the pool facility or the overall development?
Overall development, correct.
So if the pool is not able to be built at the time of phase development, when it's time to build it, is Rockwell still assuming responsibility for building the pool?
Yeah, our responsibility under our agreement with Downingtown School Districts is that we will cause for this to be built. Rockwell will not be building it in any circumstance. We would find another organization in that case.
Thank you.
Mr. Calgreca, do you have any follow-ups for any of your witnesses based on that? So before we move on, we have first the exhibits. I think we have 2 exhibits, which were A21 and A22. And A24. All right, any objection from the board? Any objection from any parties? All right, we'll accept those exhibits. I have a follow-up question just about we did touch on some issues related to planning and traffic in the context of the natatorium. Are those going to be addressed again when we have the planning expert and the traffic experts?
Yeah, the traffic expert will speak to the natatorium traffic. And what was the other one?
Planning, I guess, to
Our civil engineer will talk to the site location and, how it fits at that location.
There's a question about whether we had any of our consultants comment on that now, but I think we can save it.
They can wait. I mean, there'll be ample time. Stu won't be back, unless you want to fly in from Michigan on Monday night. But that's why we wanted to sort of take him tonight.
Understood.
So if there's any questions for him.
It wouldn't really be a question. I think we'd just be getting their thoughts on.
And by the way, if there are questions, submit them through Tara, and you can get them to us, and we'll make sure we have answers when we come back, which is Monday night.
Okay.
We just have one more witness on the natatorium use.
Okay.
If we could.
Yep, we're good.
And this won't be long because I know the hour's getting late.
Save the best for last.
What's that?
Save the best for last.
That's right. Where's your question?
I do, yes. Stephanie Flexer Graff, two words there. Flexer is my middle name. Graff, Graaf. Thank you.
Ms. Griff, are you affiliated with Phil Aquatics?
I am.
And what is your capacity?
I'm the vice chair of Phil Aquatics.
And you're authorized to speak tonight on behalf of Phil Aquatics, correct?
Yes.
Could you provide just some brief detail on your professional background?
Yes, I am a licensed physical therapist of 26 years, serving individuals across the lifespan from birth until the end of life. My clinical experience includes working in acute care at Lankenau Hospital, acute rehab at Moss Rehab and Bryn Mawr Rehab Hospital, home care through Mainline Health System, school-based practice in a local school district supporting students with diverse abilities and neurodiversity, including autism. And for the last 20 years, I've been working in early intervention, serving infants and toddlers ages birth to 3 in their home setting. I'm a former aquatic director at the Bryn Mawr Rehab, where I led water-based balance and mobility programs for older adults prior to going into PT graduate school.
One of the reasons I think that Phil Aquatics wanted you to testify this evening, and we wanted you to testify this evening, was to again expand on the opportunities for physical therapy and rehabilitation that would be presented through the Aquatic Center. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure can. I think it might be helpful if I offer what exactly a physical therapist is for those that may not know. A physical therapist or physical therapists are healthcare professionals who diagnose and treat individuals of all ages, from newborns to the very oldest, who have medical problems or other health-related conditions that limit their abilities to move and perform functional activities in their daily lives. PTs examine each individual and develop a plan using treatment techniques to promote the ability to move, reduce pain, restore function, and prevent disability. In addition, PTs work with individuals to prevent the loss of mobility before it occurs by developing fitness and wellness-oriented programs for healthier and more active lifestyles. As a physical therapist, I'm an active member of the American Physical Therapy Association, otherwise known as the APTA, where I'm a member of several special interest groups, one being the Aquatic Therapy Special Interest Group. I stay very current with evidence-based practices specific to all things PT in which I work, but also aquatic therapy. I recently attended the International Aquatic Therapy Conference in Toronto, Canada, where I learned about the most current evidence-based practices to treat individuals with all levels of disability and help learn how to combat the very grave situation in which the healthcare systems are encountering. In 2031, the first of the baby boomers will turn 85. So as you can imagine, this creates a global healthcare crisis in terms of having enough capacity to attend to the needs of an aging population. Water access or aquatic therapy is a modality in which there is emerging and a wealth of research of how expansive and how beneficial it is to populations of individuals like children with disabilities, with neurodiversity, including autism, adults with neurological, orthopedic, and balance impairments, veterans with PTSD, cardiovascular health, neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, individuals who have sustained traumatic brain injuries like strokes, vestibular and balance dysfunction, orthopedic injury, postoperative rehab, pain management, and mental health, and of course, water safety for all individuals of all abilities.
And you heard earlier that all of those services, I don't know of all of those services, that's not a lot of services, but that would be available over time at the Aquatic Center, the natatorium?
A community presents likely with most of these conditions, and especially in aging populations. So we would likely be meeting the needs of a community in which they have it. And I would be someone who would be contributing evidence-based practices to the team of professionals that are working in these programs.
And it's my understanding you've already had outreach with certain community organizations.
Yes, we have. So as you can imagine, I've been 26 years building relationships and networks within area healthcare systems, allied health providers, physicians, other specialists, researchers, academics, administrators, educators, community leaders. So we are seeking collaboration with partners who share a vision for health, wellness, education, and evidence-based community development. An example of that partnership or potential collaboration is with the CCIU, which is the Chester County Intermediate Unit. One of our collaborative partners is actually here tonight, Dr. Siobhan Levy, who represents she's the Director of Student Services for the Chester County Intermediate Unit.
And to summarize, in your opinion, do you believe that the aquatic center would be synergistic, at least not only with the community that's being built next to it, the 55 and older community, for the reasons you just stated, but for the general community here in Uwchlan Township?
Absolutely, because as I mentioned before, I did attend the International Aquatic Therapy Conference, and researchers from 17 different countries were present to talk about intervention and prevention for major health challenges globally, not just the United States. So like I mentioned before, by 2031, our baby boomers, our oldest ones, will be 85. We have an aging population in Chester County. We have an aging population everywhere. So communities have to support successful aging and thinking about including programming or community opportunities that include mobility, ability for all people, social connection, and dignity.
I have no further questions.
Board have any questions?
Thank you.
Ms. Widener? Mr. Angles? Ms. Matthews? I think Dwyer left this. Mr. Martin? Chaz is Denny. Ms. Blatcher? Did I miss anyone with party status?
I don't have any questions.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Denny? Okay. So, yeah, okay, so we're gonna close not close, we're gonna adjourn for this evening. And we will pick up again at Monday, 6 o'clock, same location, to continue the hearings. Thank you. So public, I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, there will be an opportunity for public comment. That'll come at the end of testimony. Obviously, you're seeing that testimony, we still have more of the applicant's testimony. Then I think that any testimony from the township will probably be sprinkled in with the applicant's testimony. And then parties will have an opportunity for testimony. At the end of all that, there will be an opportunity for public comment. Hopefully it'll be on the last day, but I guess it depends on where things land.
Well, and we had we're accepting public comment via email. That was originally open until 9 a.m. on the 27th. Since I don't think we're going to get through this in 2 nights, we're going to extend that to 9 a.m. on the 29th of July. We'll put that out via all of our channels, but it's going to extend that period.
Can we get copies of the public comment? I mean, all right.
Yeah, so our intention is to collect that and then put it with the record.
Thank you.
Adjournment, I guess the. Oh, no, we're just, you know what, it's done. Thank you. I think everyone's crying.